Chapter 3044. Let me try. I don't know why, but I can feel a strong suppression in this sovereign space. I'm afraid I can't fully unleash the power of an earthly sovereign. After Little Seven was summoned, he immediately felt that something was wrong. After giving it a try, he realized that this was indeed the case. At most, he could only exert the power of a half-step earthly sovereign. It seems that Senior Longevity was defeated not only because he was poisoned or besieged, but also because of the suppression of the sovereign space. After hearing Little Seven's words, Night Sorrow immediately thought of the fall of Supreme Longevity. The suppression of the sovereign space was definitely a nightmare for Supreme Longevity. However, after Night Sorrow understood this, he immediately calmed down. With the suppression of the sovereign space, the earthly sovereigns from other territories wouldn't dare to appear. After all, those peerless experts treasured their own feathers. He didn't want to repeat the same mistake as Supreme Longevity. This way, Night Sorrow and the other earthly sovereigns in the realm of gods would have a much better living environment in the sovereign space. After all, without the existence of an earthly sovereign, Night Sorrow would soon have no natural enemies. Brother Yi, there are more and more enemies, and many earthly sovereigns from other territories are rushing over. What should we do? Morong Guides, who was in the middle of the battle, saw Night Sorrow's eyes and knew that he was thinking about something. However, the current development of the battle was extremely disadvantageous for the people in the realm of gods. If the battle continued, they wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Injuries and even death were inevitable. It's okay, I haven't unleashed my full power yet. Night Sorrow replied to Morong Guides. Then he transmitted his voice to Little Seven. Since you can't unleash your full power, let's work together. I'll defeat one, and you'll absorb one. Okay, that's easier. Little Seven replied excitedly after hearing Night Sorrow's words. You guys have bullied the realm of gods for long enough. From today onwards, this situation will completely change. Night Sorrow, who was holding the golden heavenly halberd, placed the small tower on his shoulder, and completely activated the flames of the Phoenix battle armor. The Phoenix battle armor on his body had actually been damaged many times. However, the magical thing about it was that every time it was destroyed, it would successfully be reborn. Its strength now reached the level of a sovereign. Haha. Ignorant Junior. You think that you can shine in the fight for sovereign rank's destiny? You think you can wreak havoc in the sovereign space? If you focus on cultivating for a few eras, you might be able to, but Yu's wrongs came too early. Everyone attacked together. Today our priority is to kill this little bastard who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Zhu Xian's sovereign space was surrounded the 9 sovereigns SSSSS spaces his sovereigns. Sovereigns at his command. Have A's sovereign heavens S sovereignty, TTST. S origin sovereigns AAA's his S. After he spoke, a few sovereigns gave up on dealing with the others and surrounded Night Sorrow. In an instant, the number of sovereigns surrounding him had increased to 7. Little bastard, you dare to kill Xianqing Yu of the 9's origin sovereign? Let's see how you'll die today. Supreme Zhu Xian, who was attacking Yishang with the other 6 9 Heavens Supremes, clenched his teeth and roared. He then executed an ultimate move at Yishang. Heavenly Heaven Slash. The half-step earthly sovereign Zhu Xian's attack was extremely powerful. He looked like he was going to fight with his life on the line. Amazing. How can we still attack? When Zhu Xian attacked, the other 6 sovereigns even forgot to attack. In their opinion, this attack had reached the limit of a sovereign's. And Night Sorrow was a half-earth sovereign. Everyone felt that Night Sorrow would definitely be killed by this attack. Night Sorrow, be careful. This attack isn't simple. Little Seven, who was on Night Sorrow's shoulder, also rose. It also realized the power of this attack. Don't worry, if it was in the past, I don't think it would be easy for you to take this attack. But now, I've already learned the 9's origin sovereign's divine ability. This attack of his is derived from the origin sovereign's divine ability. I can easily break it. Night Sorrow, who had activated the Clam Dragon's Eye, could see that Zhu Xian's attack was derived from the 9's origin sovereign's divine ability, Mysterious Sky Secret Shadow. As the true wielder of the Mysterious Sky Secret Shadow, he naturally had an innate advantage against Zhu Xian's heavenly heaven slash. You'll follow in Qianqingyu's footsteps soon. Facing the heavenly heaven slash, Knight Sorrow roared and attacked with the god's spear. This move was developed from the fusion of the god's finger and the mysterious sky secret shadow. In fact, the eternal sovereign's divine ability all came from the myriad Dao divine ability. However, Knight Sorrow had not noticed this before. Now the Black Heaven True Self Slash's ultimate technique made him realize this. God's spear? Why does this move have the shadow of the mysterious sky secret shadow? Seeing Knight Sorrow unleash the god's spear, Supreme Zhu Xian's pupils immediately constricted. However, this thought only flashed across his mind, and he did not say it out loud. Knight Sorrow, who had successfully dodged the heavenly heaven slash, pierced his dantian with a spear. Although the power of this spear that Knight Sorrow had fused with was inferior to the god's finger, its destructive power was similarly astonishing. It directly pierced through Supreme Zhu Xian's Fengyu robe and body. Impossible. How is this possible? Supreme Zhu Xian did not expect that Knight Sorrow had already grasped the core divine ability of the Nine's origin sovereign. Having his dantian pierced through in one strike, his face was filled with disbelief. Nothing is impossible. If I can kill Qianqingyu, I have the ability to kill you. Knight Sorrow did not wish for Supreme Zhu Xian to reveal the secret. Without giving him a chance to continue speaking, he directly crushed his divine soul. Supreme Zhu Xian, who came from the four great holy lands, was completely killed by Knight Sorrow in a single exchange. This time, the rest of the supreme martial artists were completely shocked. They instantly understood that a ruthless person had appeared in the realm of the gods, and his current cultivation level was only half a step away from being a supreme. They did not dare to believe that when Knight Sorrow grew up and became a true supreme, what kind of combat power would he have? This Knight Sorrow is not easy to deal with. Summon the top supreme martial artists. After being stunned for a moment, the 6 supreme martial artists who were besieging Knight Sorrow began to communicate with each other through telepathy. Then they did not dare to be careless and attacked Knight Sorrow together. They wanted to win with numbers. Even Supreme Zhu Xian was killed in one strike. None of you are even half a step away from being an earthly sovereign. You still want to defeat me? After the small pagoda sucked Supreme Zhu Xian in, Knight Sorrow and the other 6 supreme martial artists began to fight. Although the other party had the advantage in numbers, he was not afraid. However, the problem now was that they could not continue to fight because the supreme martial artists from other territories were still rushing over. Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website, M. Chapter 3045. However, what surprised Knight Sorrow was that the other people in the heavenly realm were much stronger than he had imagined. Myriad Sword Sect and Xiao Tianxian, who had been healed by Yan Hengshi, were not weaker than the other supreme martial artists. They were even more powerful than before. Furthermore, Myriad Sword Sect even killed an intermediate supreme martial artist one-on-one. Although Xiao Tianxian did not kill a supreme martial artist one-on-one, he was able to disintegrate one supreme martial artist. He had to use a secret technique to barely escape. The other sovereigns were not as strong as the 2 of them, but everyone, including Jing Yuan, was very valiant. Their combat power had increased by a lot, especially Wu Lingfei, who was already vaguely catching up with Myriad Sword Sect and Xiao Tianxian. Facing a supreme martial artist alone, she was able to force him to retreat. Very good. Everyone's collective improvement is a rare good thing for the heavenly realm. While fighting, Knight Sorrow was also paying attention to the other people in the heavenly realm, afraid that someone would be in danger. At first glance, he realized that he was worrying too much. After the baptism of the battle for Providence, the people in the heavenly realm had already grown into independent experts. If the original team participated in the battle for Providence, the heavenly realm would definitely be able to easily win the championship. Bastard, you dare to be distracted when fighting 1 against 6. Now Knight Sorrow was actually paying attention to the other people's battles in the battle. The few supreme martial artists who were fighting with him were completely enraged. One by one, they used their ultimate skills to fight with their lives. Knight Sorrow, be careful. Although the supreme martial artists were not as strong as Supreme Zhu Xian individually, the 6 of them were fighting with their lives on the line, so the threat was obviously greater than Supreme Zhu Xian. Little 7 immediately reminded him. No worries. Although there are 6 of them, they are not a whole. Just defeat them one by one. But time is tight. We can't waste too much time with them. Attack, it must be a fatal blow. After replying to Little 7, Yishan withdrew his consciousness. Holding the golden heavenly halberd, he used God's shadow to dodge the attacks. At the same time, he unleashed a divine essence trapping formation and divine finger at one of the primes. He cleanly shattered his dantian. God's finger? What he used seems to be the long-lost God's finger. Could he be the reincarnation of supreme longevity? Seeing Night Sorrow shattering a supreme martial artist's dantian from a distance, some of the supreme martial artists present, the divine ability of the realm of the gods had disappeared for many years. Now that it had appeared once again, they began to doubt it. Whether he is reincarnated or not, quickly. He can use divine abilities, but we can't. How are we going to fight him? After Yishang displayed the long-lost divine ability of the god realm, many supremes began to fear him, their god. It was rumored that the divine finger was the strongest attack of the eternal supreme. No one could withstand it. No one wanted Night Sorrow to open a hole in their body. God, another. After Yishang heavily injured the supreme being in front of him, Little 7 let out a human-like laugh and put him into the small pagoda. He turned it into rules and essence. Then, when they fought Night Sorrow again, the remaining supreme martial artists changed their tactics. They no longer fought with their lives on the line. Instead, they fought with their lives on the line. However, Night Sorrow's combat power was almost at the level of a half-step earthly supreme. Even if they focused on defense, it would be difficult for them to resist him. It didn't take long for Night Sorrow to kill another 2 paragons. Now there were only 3 paragons left in front of Night Sorrow. The 3 of them exchanged glances. How could they possibly have the courage to continue fighting? The supreme martial artists who were fighting with the rest of the god world didn't notice Night Sorrow's situation at first. By the time they realized it, it was already too late. In the blink of an eye, Night Sorrow had killed 3 supreme martial artists. He killed every time he attacked. He was like a god of death. At this point, the supreme martial artists present were scared out of their wits. They all used their secret techniques to escape. Some of the supreme martial artists who had rushed oversaw so many supreme martial artists running away, and they also ran away in fear. No one dared to continue fighting in the god world. Haha. Brother Yi, you are really brave. The power of the divine finger just now is amazing. The myriad sword sect laughed loudly. After Night Sorrow's power, the battle became like this. At the same time, he was quite interested in the divine finger. The divine finger is a good thing. But a man's wealth is his own ruin. You should wait until you become a supreme martial artist and can take charge in the supreme space before you learn it. Night Sorrow could naturally see through the myriad sword sect's thoughts and said with a smile. Ha! Okay, I will wait for a while more. The myriad sword sect also smiled. He was a little embarrassed that Night Sorrow had seen through his thoughts. At this time, Yuan Fengxue laughed and said, Haha, it's okay. We are not in a hurry. If you are not strong enough to learn the divine finger, you will be targeted wherever you go. That's right. But if you encounter a dangerous situation, you have to fight with your lives on the line. I will teach you the divine finger in advance. This divine finger is very special and can only be taught one by one. But the advantage is that as long as you teach it, you will be able to learn it directly. Night Sorrow explained and continued. Those weak supreme martial artists have escaped, but it doesn't mean that the others will not come. Let's go directly to the big and small grotto heavens. Okay. Let's enter your space grotto heaven again? After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Wu Lingfei asked. Okay. My movement technique should be faster. After saying that, Night Sorrow kept everyone in the space grotto heaven and continued to rush to the big and small grotto heavens. Along the way, they were summoned 3 times, and each time, it was an earth-shattering battle. However, under Night Sorrow's continuous attacks, although the people of the heavenly realm were seriously exhausted and everyone, including Night Sorrow, was injured, no one died. Just like that, about 6 months later, they successfully arrived at the periphery of the big and small grotto heavens. Something's not right. There is obviously something going on inside. Just as they approached the periphery of the big and small grotto heavens, Night Sorrow felt that something was wrong and quickly stopped. Using the eye of the sea serpent, he saw that there were many formations set up around the big and small grotto heavens. And there were a few supreme martial artists hiding around. These supreme martial artists were all lower-level martial artists. Their strength was not very strong, but they were good at hiding. Obviously, they were hidden sentries. How can there be such a coincidence? We were just about to save people when we saw people coming to the big and small grotto heavens to look for opportunities. Master Wan Jian said unhappily. At this time, he was still in Night Sorrow's space grotto heaven, just like the others. There must be a rare treasure in the big and small grotto heavens that attracted some people here. I think this is our chance to become supreme martial artists. At this time, Night Sorrow recalled what Supreme Longevity said and said slowly. Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3046. It's a good thing that a treasure has appeared in the big and small grotto heavens. We can't be absent. Thousand Sword Master said excitedly when he heard Night Sorrow's words. Even in the grotto heaven, he could not suppress his desire to fight. He realized that after Night Sorrow's appearance, the strength of the people around him had increased by more than 1 level. It's a good thing. But looking at the situation in front of us, it might be a great danger. There must be many experts inside. Night Sorrow used the eye of the sea serpent to observe the formation in front of them for a long time. He was sure that the person who had set up the formation was at least a half-step earthly sovereign. Of course we're going in. Do we barge in or think of some other way? Thousand Sword Master asked. Xiao Tianxian and the rest did not say anything, but they were also paying attention. Obviously, they were looking forward to becoming earthly sovereigns. Let's kill the few hidden sentries in front of us first. Then let the restriction-breaking hammer try to break the formation without anyone noticing. Then we'll have enough time to hide in the dark. After communicating with the restriction-breaking hammer, Night Sorrow said. Although the formation in front of them was very mysterious, the restriction-breaking hammer had the ability to break it. Then he added, of course, if we can capture these earthly sovereigns alive, that would be even better. We can ask who's in there, and when the people inside ask about it, we'll be able to respond easily. It won't be easy. After all, they are earthly sovereigns. It's already very difficult to kill them without anyone noticing, let alone capture them alive. Xiao Tianxian said with a frown when he heard the plan. There are a total of 6 of them, and they're hiding in different places. It's not easy to kill them without anyone noticing. How about this? I'll teach you the divine finger. When the time comes, we'll find the right time to kill them with a single blow. After thinking about it, Night Sorrow felt that this was the best choice for now. If it were not for the current situation, he would not have taught them the divine finger so early. Ah, so suddenly? Hearing Night Sorrow's words, everyone in the realm of God hesitated. After all, this was not going according to plan. From the looks of it, this is the safest way, Yi Shang added. Then he led the people of the God realm away and found a safe place. Before imparting the God's finger to everyone, Night Sorrow frowned and said, actually, imparting the God's finger to everyone is not something difficult. However, we must ensure that the divine abilities of the divine realm are not learned by outsiders. Let's make an oath right now. He would never impart the secret technique to anyone. After all, things like divine abilities could only be passed down from one person to another. You can't learn it through soul-searching techniques. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Xiao Tianxian looked at the others and said. Then he took the initiative to swear a deadly oath. This meant that even if he died, he would not impart this ability to anyone else. After Xiao Tianxian finished his oath, the others followed suit and made their oaths. After they finished their vows, Night Sorrow began to teach them the divine arts one by one. In less than 20 breaths of time, he finished teaching them. Time is of the essence. Everyone quickly comprehend it. However, there's no need to test it out to avoid alerting the enemy. After all, the distance is not far. After imparting the divine abilities, Night Sorrow allowed everyone to comprehend it for a while before keeping them back into the space cave. With the help of the concealment rune, Night Sorrow found a suitable location and divided everyone into 5 groups. He placed them near the 5 supreme beings while he faced one of them alone. Everyone get ready. I will count down from 1. Everyone, use your god's finger to kill the enemy. One of you will attack the Danteon while the other one will attack the deity Ocean. After placing everyone down, Night Sorrow said, "Don't worry. We are all ready." Master Wan Jian said excitedly. The others were the same. After all, none of them had used their divine abilities before. All right. Then I shall begin. 3, 2, 1. Asterisk boom. 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 Asterisk. When Yi Shang counted to 1, everyone attacked the supreme martial artists who were not far away from them from 6 different directions. With the help of the god's finger, the 6 supreme beings were all killed without making a sound. Just in case, Night Sorrow did not leave any of them alive. Restriction breaking hammer, it's up to you now. After keeping the teleportation stones and other items of the 6 supreme beings, Night Sorrow asked Little Seven to absorb them all. Then he summoned the restriction breaking hammer. This kind of formation may be very mysterious to you, but to us it's nothing at all. We can break it with a wave of our hand. After the male hammer was summoned, it immediately cooperated with the female hammer and successfully broke a hole in the formation. At this time Wu Lingfei asked, "Are you sure this won't alert the people inside?" "Absolutely not. Unless there is a heavenly supreme inside." The female hammer, who recognized Wu Lingfei as its master, replied, "That's good. Let's go in." After getting a positive answer, Wu Lingfei looked at everyone and said, "No hurry. We can set up some more formations on top of this formation. This way, we can know in advance if anyone comes." Yi Shang said as he casually set up some array formations nearby. Among them, there was an illusion formation, a trap formation, and a concealment formation. In the concealment formation, there were a few image stones. "Shall we go in together or enter your space grotto heaven again?" When everyone was about to enter the grotto heavens, Xiao Tianxian looked at Night Sorrow again. "It will be safer for everyone to hide in my space grotto heaven. However, I think that since we are representing the heavenly realm, we should go in together. After all, the heavenly realm does not belong to me alone." Night Sorrow smiled and said to everyone. After teaching them the god's finger, he had a deeper level of confidence in everyone's strength. "All right. Being taken care of by you all the time has lowered our vigilance, and we have become dependent on you. This is not good," Jin Xian said with a smile as he walked into the grotto heavens. However, after walking for a short distance he frowned and said, "What a strong smell of blood. From the position of the cave, there should have been a battle." Indeed. Everyone be careful. Using the sea serpent's eye, Night Sorrow looked into the distance and found that there were many torn corpses in the dark cave. The corpses of these cultivators were all in a horrible state. "Night Sorrow, can you see anything?" As everyone walked into the cave, the smell of blood became stronger and stronger. Morongji pointed the way and asked, "This cave is not simple. If I'm not wrong, this is a land of death. There is a terrifying existence here." Before Night Sorrow could say anything, Xiongji spoke first. The seal-breaking bronze hammers had an extraordinary understanding of space. With a simple look, they were sure that there was no way out. There was no way out. Moreover, there were torn corpses all around. This was different from what they had imagined before they came in. Genius memorized the address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3047. Seal-breaking hammer. Work together and try to break the seal. Everyone else be on guard. After the seal-breaking hammer made its judgment, Night Sorrow immediately reminded everyone to be on guard. The smell of blood here was too strong. Obviously, the corpses nearby had been killed not long ago. It was very likely that there was a horrifying existence in this sealed cave. However, even when Night Sorrow used the sea serpent's eye to observe, He did not find anything. When Night Sorrow did not find anything, Jingyan shouted, "Not good. I feel that something is spying on us." Jingyan is the weakest. The thing hiding in the dark might want to attack her. Everyone, get ready to attack. Thinking of the miserable corpses around him, Night Sorrow's heart clenched as he stood beside Jingyan. Moreover, the others in the realm of the gods also unconsciously moved closer. In an instant, the temperature in the dark cave dropped a lot. Even though everyone was a dominator, they could still feel the coldness in their bones. There's a murderous aura. It's very strong. In the tense atmosphere, Night Sorrow suddenly transmitted his voice to everyone. This time, although the sea serpents I did not see anything, he could already feel the terrifying murderous aura. It's coming. I can feel it. It's coming. As soon as Night Sorrow finished speaking, Jingyan shouted. Then, she condensed her divine origin energy and used the divine finger in a direction. As her divine finger lit up the distance, everyone saw a headless armored corpse slowly crawling out of the soil. As for Xiang Yu's attack, it might have been due to panic, but it did not hit its target. This armored corpse should have the strength of an earthly sovereign when it was alive. Now it should be a half-step earthly sovereign. However, it is stronger than an ordinary half-step earthly sovereign. After all, it had comprehended the rules of an earthly sovereign when it was alive. Everyone be careful. Little Seven glanced at the armored corpse in front of them, and immediately reminded everyone. If it's alone, there's nothing to be afraid of. However, if the number keeps increasing, it will be difficult to deal with. After using the sea serpent's eye to observe the headless armored corpse, Night Sorrow said coldly. The armored corpse's aura was strong and full of murderous aura. However, the giant axe in its hand was already blunt. Who cares how many there are? Let's fight. The 10,000 Swords sect roared and took the lead to charge forward. In everyone's opinion, Jingyan's cultivation time was too short after all, so she was still a little weak. Roar. Just as Master 10,000 Swords swung his sword at the armored zombie, out of nowhere, the headless armored zombie let out a roar. Then he swung his axe fiercely at the 10,000 Sword sect. The precepts contained within this swing were clearly stronger than the myriad sword sect's attack. With a boom, the master of the 10,000 Swords was sent flying. If it wasn't for his sword's quality, it would have been broken. This thing is quite capable. Everyone be careful. After being sent flying by a single blow, Master Wan Jian felt that his breathing was a little labored, so he immediately reminded everyone. Just as he spoke, the armored zombie charged at him ferociously. This time, the armored zombie didn't swing the giant axe in his hand. Instead, he stretched out his hands in an attempt to tear the myriad swords sect to shreds. Seeing this scene, Night Sorrow and the others could no longer stand still. Godly Spear. After condensing his elemental energy, Yishan immediately shot out the Godly Spear. This Godly Spear, with the help of Godly Shadow, was extremely fast and wasn't inferior to the Godly Finger. As soon as he finished speaking, Night Sorrow's attack had already landed on the armored zombie's body. The clanging sound of metal colliding rang out in the enclosed space. The armored zombie, which was about to tear the master of the 10,000 Swords sect to shreds, was blasted a few hundred feet away. A few hundred feet wasn't a short distance, but for a cultivator at Night Sorrow's level, it wasn't far at all. When he bombarded the armored zombie's body, he felt like he was hitting a solid piece of iron. This armored zombie's body is very strong, everyone be careful. After helping the master of the 10,000 Swords sect up, Night Sorrow reminded everyone. The attack just now made him realize that the armored zombie's body was obviously stronger than an ordinary half-step earthly sovereign. Thank you. I was a little careless just now. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would have been torn to shreds. After the master of the 10,000 Swords sect got up, he said with lingering fear. During the exchange just now, cold sweat flowed down his back. If it weren't for Night Sorrow's timely intervention, his body would have been torn to shreds in a moment of carelessness. The armored zombie's strength was obviously stronger than what the master of the 10,000 Swords sect had imagined. Let's not talk about this for now, let's continue to fight. Although the armored zombie is strong, it shouldn't be invulnerable. After helping the master of the 10,000 Swords sect up, Night Sorrow once again condensed his divine origin energy and attacked the armored zombie with the godly finger. When Night Sorrow attacked, the rest of the people in the realm of the gods also attacked with the godly finger. Although the armored zombie's body was strong, its speed wasn't fast. Although it knew how to dodge, it didn't manage to avoid these attacks. However, only Night Sorrow's attack managed to penetrate its armor. The others' attacks didn't have much effect. This thing's defense is too terrifying. Jin Xian's brows furrowed in shock when he saw that the armored zombie hadn't suffered much damage despite being bombarded by a barrage of attacks. After all, the godly finger's attack power was very sharp. It's okay. Being able to penetrate its defense proves that it isn't invulnerable. Little 7, if it loses its ability to resist, can you swallow it? This thing was an earthly sovereign when it was alive. If you swallow it, you should be able to gain a lot of benefits, right? Night Sorrow asked Little Tower as he cooperated with the others to attack the armored zombie. Little 7 replied with certainty. In this situation, I definitely can't. But if it loses its ability to resist, then we will definitely gain a lot. In addition to the previous accumulation, I can help one of you become an earthly sovereign in a short period of time. Good. Very good. Night Sorrow was shocked when he heard Little 7's reply. Whether it was him or the others, their strength would increase greatly when they became earthly sovereigns. This was definitely a great thing for the Grotto Heavens. However, the battle in front of them was obviously more difficult than they had imagined. Although everyone attacked together, they quickly suppressed the armored zombie. Just as the armored zombie was about to lose its ability to fight, it suddenly let out an earth-shattering roar. After the roar, dozens of specters with the strength of earthly sovereigns immediately appeared in the cave. Every single one of these soul-like spirits was extremely ferocious. Although they were specters, they still had the ability to fight. After they appeared, they cooperated with the armored zombie to launch a terrifying soul attack on the people in the realm of the gods. The strength of the soul attack made Night Sorrow feel that it was a little difficult to deal with. Chapter 3048. Such a terrifying divine soul attack is hard to deal with. What should we do? Seeing so many divine souls unleashing such a powerful divine soul attack, Murong Jinlu anxiously shouted. His shouts filled the cave. Murong Jinlu's shouts had the intention of disrupting the morale of the army. Xiao Tianxian shouted in dissatisfaction. What are you shouting for? This is a sealed space. We are fighting with our backs against the wall. There is no way out. If you want to live, fight with your life. But, Murong Jinlu wanted to say something, but he was quickly entangled by two divine souls. Under their attacks, Murong Jinlu quickly lost the ability to resist. Night Sorrow. Murong Jinlu seems to be unable to resist. Night Sorrow, who was in the middle of the battle, had consumed a lot of his divine soul. He had no time to look around, so he did not notice the problem with Murong Jinlu. It was Little 7 who reminded him. Bastard. Turning around to look at Murong Jinlu, Night Sorrow's eyes immediately changed. At this moment, he had been completely defeated, and his divine soul was being torn apart. Night Sorrow did not hesitate at all. He directly used Soft Dragon Roar to push back the two divine souls that were fighting Murong Jinlu. Then he kept them in his space grotto heaven. He asked, Jinlu, how are you? Luckily you acted in time, or else I would have died. Murong Jinlu's face revealed a bitter smile. After surviving a disaster, his mood was a bit uneasy. But at this moment he still reminded, don't worry about me, there are still others. These damn things are too hard to deal with. Don't worry. I will think of a way. Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to Murong Jinlu, then continued to fight with the divine souls. Although everyone tried their best to resist, they were still at a disadvantage. The headless armored corpse, which had been injured earlier, was also gradually recovering. When it completely returned to the battlefield, everyone in the heavenly realm was completely suppressed. This won't do. If this goes on, we will all die here. Everyone, take out whatever secret treasures you have. Even if we self-destruct, it is better than being killed ourselves. Thousand Swords Master shouted. We know that too. But what he could take out, he had taken out almost all of them. After all, Even the restriction breaker hammer and Little Seven have joined the battle. Jin Xian replied helplessly. The current situation was simply too passive. A trace of despair gradually rose in everyone's hearts. Right at this critical moment, Night Sorrow suddenly shouted, "Primal Chaos! Come out quickly! Suck all these souls into your Primal Chaos space. We'll deal with them in the Primal Chaos space." Good. Watch me. When the chaotic heavenly crystal beast received Night Sorrow's order, it immediately came out of the spatial paradise. He had just achieved the upper level 9 heaven's supreme realm not long ago. His aura was extremely strong. After he appeared, he completely exploded. Together with Night Sorrow, they fought against the headless armored corpse and sucked everyone into the chaotic space. Then he shouted, "Night Sorrow, I'll hold off this armored zombie. You go in and deal with those supreme being spirits." Good. You just have to hold it back, Night Sorrow said, and also entered the Primal Chaos space. In the Primal Chaos space, he could be considered half a master, and he was completely familiar with it. It was completely different when he fought against those supreme being spirits. After the supreme being spirits were suppressed, Night Sorrow completely exploded and quickly finished off a few of them. At this time he shouted, "Everyone, now is the best opportunity. If we delay any longer, the Primal Chaos space will not be able to suppress them." Okay. The others made a long story short and immediately attacked. With everyone's cooperation, these originally extremely terrifying supreme being spirits were destroyed one by one. The chaotic heavenly crystal beast has really done a meritorious deed this time. Without it, we might have all died this time. After finishing off these supreme being spirits, Xiao Tianxian said with lingering fear. Boom. Right at this moment, they who were within the chaotic space immediately sensed a strand of extremely powerful collision force. Not good. The Primal Chaos space can't resist the armored zombie. Let's go help immediately. Night Sorrow, who had also relaxed a little, realized this problem and immediately shouted, "Okay. Let's kill that headless armored zombie together." Myriad Sword Sect also said. Then everyone in the Heavenly Realm territory came out of the Primal Chaos space. As soon as they returned to the cave, they saw the chaotic heavenly crystal beast's huge body that had been knocked down. Although its body was incomparably huge, its combat strength was much weaker than the armored zombies. If it wasn't for Night Sorrow immediately striking the armored zombie with the divine finger, as soon as he appeared, the armored zombie would have been killed. Primal Chaos. You've done well this time. Jing Yun, give all the earthly supreme rules and essence to the Primal Chaos. The chaotic heavenly crystal beast was seriously injured, so Night Sorrow immediately asked Jing Yun to take out the champion's reward that had not been absorbed and give it to the chaotic heavenly crystal beast. "I'm fine, I just need to rest for a while." After the chaotic heavenly crystal beast collected the resources, it returned to Night Sorrow's grotto heaven to recover. At this time, it had already contacted Night Sorrow's battle pet contract and was considered friends. As for Yi Shang and the others, they no longer called him it. "Okay. You rest in peace. I will avenge you for being injured." Night Sorrow transmitted his voice and once again held the golden heavenly halberd in his hand. The armored zombie's body was very strong, and its combat strength was astonishing. Among the people present, only he could fight against it. Then Night Sorrow restrained the armored zombie, while the others bombarded it from a distance. After fighting for about 6 hours, they finally defeated the armored zombie completely. Little Seven, quickly suck it into the tower. When the armored zombie lost its combat strength, Night Sorrow immediately reminded Little Seven, "Don't worry. I've long been ready." Hearing this, Little Seven instantly sucked the armored zombie into the tower. Although it was only on the 7th level of the Eternal Divine Tower, its functions were still very powerful. After sucking the armored zombie in, it quickly converted it into rules and energy. After doing all this, Little Seven said, "At present, except for Night Sorrow, any one of you can quickly advance to the supreme stage if you enter the tower to cultivate. Who will go first?" "How long will it take to advance to the supreme stage?" After Little Seven finished speaking, Night Sorrow asked. If he wanted to advance to the supreme stage, He needed more rules and essence than the others. Little 7 in front of him couldn't help him much. It depends on comprehension. If it's not bad, a few years will be enough. Little 7 thought for a moment and replied. Then everyone in the Heavenly Realm territory immediately discussed who should go first. Originally, everyone recommended the Myriad Sword sect because he was more brave and would be the first to face any danger. If he could advance to the supreme stage, it would be a very good improvement for the entire team. However, Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3049. However, after being recommended by everyone, Myriad Sword Master felt that it was better to let Jing Yun, who was an upper-level dominator, directly advance to the supreme level. It was obviously more suitable for an upper-level dominator to advance than a half-step supreme. When everyone heard this, they felt that it made sense, so they did not continue to argue. They let Jing Yun, who was too embarrassed, enter the Eternal Divine Tower to cultivate. Finally, with Night Sorrow's nod, Jing Yun finally went in and began to cultivate. Night Sorrow led the others to search for the exit of the cave in front of them. However, after looking around, they found that there was no exit at all. At this moment, Myriad Sword Master asked doubtfully, "If there is no exit or entrance, how did the armored zombie leave after killing the supreme level? After all, when we first entered here, there were no creatures in the cave." "That makes sense. Let's look carefully," Night Sorrow said, and then transmitted his voice to the restriction-breaking hammer. "You guys also study and see if there are any restrictions around." "We've been looking, but we haven't found any clues." The hammer replied immediately. They really couldn't find any way out. Little 7 had no way out either. For a time, everyone was trapped in the cave. Just like that, he had been trapped for 10 years. In these 10 years, Night Sorrow and the others tried all kinds of methods, but they couldn't leave. Obviously, their attacks couldn't threaten the cave in front of them. After 10 years of being trapped, Myriad Sword Master sat helplessly on the ground and said sadly, "We won't be trapped here forever, right? There's such a possibility. If there's really no other way, we can only cultivate hard. Try to break through to the supreme level, and then try to attack the surrounding walls." Night Sorrow said helplessly. After being trapped for so many years, he had no way out. Divine Finger was the most powerful attack in the Eternal Supreme World, but it couldn't break through the walls of the cave, because the walls of the cave could grow by themselves. After being blasted open, they would heal by themselves in the blink of an eye. Without relying on resources, it's easier said than done to advance to the supreme level. Among us, I'm afraid only Jing Yun can advance to the supreme level, Myriad Sword Master said helplessly. "It's fine. If we go out late, we'll miss the opportunity at most. It's nothing." At this moment, Xiao Tianxian comforted her. He, on the other hand, had been relatively calm and had been cultivating peacefully. "That's nothing. Can you imagine the purpose of our trip? It was to rescue the 2 Vice City Lords. The strength of the 2 City Lords should be slightly stronger than Brother Yi. Aren't you also trapped in the formation and unable to come out?" Master Wan Jian said speechlessly. After hearing what he said, everyone's faces changed. That's right. The 2 Vice City Lords were trapped in the same grotto heavens. Their situation was very likely the same as theirs. "Don't worry, we will definitely be able to get out." At this moment, Night Sorrow comforted him with certainty. He had the Supreme Longevity Summoning Stone in his hands. He could summon the Supreme Longevity from any corner of the Eternal Supreme World. With his ability, he would definitely have a way to leave. What was that sound? Why is there thunder in the cave? After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Yuan Fengxue suddenly asked with a puzzled expression, "What thunder?" Hearing this, Master Wan Jian frowned. But soon he also heard the sound of thunder. At this moment, Little 7 said, "It's Jing Yun facing the supreme tribulation in the Eternal Divine Tower. If nothing unexpected happens, she will soon become a supreme." "Really? That's great." Hearing that Jing Yun was about to become a supreme, everyone's eyes lit up. Night Sorrow and Wu Lingfei were a little worried that Jing Yun would not be able to withstand the supreme tribulation. However, The facts proved that their worries were completely unnecessary. Half a month later, a delicate shout suddenly came from the Eternal Divine Tower. Then, Jing Yun's graceful figure suddenly flew out of the Eternal Divine Tower. At this moment, runes were flowing on her body, making her look like a floating immortal. And her aura was very stable. She did not give off a feeling of emptiness because her strength had increased too quickly. Haha. Congratulations to Jing Yun for becoming a supreme. You are one step ahead of all of us. After confirming that Jing Yun had successfully become a supreme, Master Wan Jian was the first to congratulate her. Night Sorrow's face had a trace of a smile. He was sincerely happy for her. Then everyone else also congratulated her. After everyone finished, Jing Yun said softly, "Actually, when I entered the Supreme Divine Tower to cultivate this time, not only did my strength advance to the level of a lower supreme, I also obtained a lot of useful things." "Oh, what things?" Wu Lingfei was puzzled. "The things I obtained were the armored zombies' memories. It turns out that in the big and small grotto heavens, there are 3 big grotto heavens and 3,000 small grotto heavens. What place is here? It is one of the small grotto heavens." At this point, Jing Yun paused for a moment and said, "And in the big and small grotto heavens, there are cave masters. The cave masters in the 3 big grotto heavens are all earthly sovereigns. However, their strength is suppressed by the supreme space, so they can't completely unleash the strength of an earthly sovereign. As for the 3,000 small grotto heavens, the cave master's strength is about the same as the armored zombies. Then how do we get out? There should be such things in the armored zombies' memories, right?" After Jing Yun finished speaking, Night Sorrow asked. "Of course there is." Jing Yun smiled and said, "What I'm talking about is the original cave master. Actually, anyone who defeats the original cave master can become the new cave master and have the authority to enter and exit the grotto heavens. In this small grotto heavens, the cave master was defeated by everyone. However, its laws and essence have all been absorbed by me. Therefore, I became the new cave master of this small grotto heavens. It is very easy to get out." "Is that so? That's great." After Jing Yun finished speaking, Master Wan Jian immediately laughed. After being trapped for so many years, now that they could finally get out, he was not the only one who was relieved. Everyone else also relaxed. Getting out is a very simple thing. But the problem is that the purpose of our trip is to rescue the 2 deputy city lords. There are more than 3,000 grotto heavens. How are we going to find them? At this time, Jing Yun said hesitantly, "Other than the cave master, is there any other way to break into the grotto heavens?" Night Sorrow continued to ask. He felt that having many grotto heavens was not a problem. But the fatal thing was that if they barged in recklessly, it was very likely that they would be trapped in one of the grotto heavens. If the cave master of the grotto heavens did not choose to fight to the death like the armored zombie, but chose to escape directly, then they would be trapped in the grotto heavens forever. That would be very tragic. There is a way, such as an earthly supreme level attack, or a heavenly supreme level attack," Jing Yun said helplessly. "So there is no way to break into those grotto heavens?" Hearing this, everyone in the heavenly realm territory was a little disappointed. However, at this time Night Sorrow suddenly said, "The 2 city lords should be able to be saved." Chapter 30-50. Oh, how are we going to save them? We are not earthly sovereigns or heavenly sovereigns. It is definitely not a wise choice to go to other grotto heavens. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Xiao Tianxian asked doubtfully, "We do not have the attack power of an earthly sovereign or heavenly sovereign now, but as long as I advance to sovereign, the divine finger should not be inferior to an ordinary earthly sovereign attack. At that time, we can travel between different grotto heavens." Yi Shan analyzed for a moment before he continued. "Therefore we should go and fight for the fortuitous encounters. As long as we get the opportunity, everything will be fine." "That makes sense. Others in the sovereign realm cannot attack at the level of an earthly sovereign. But you are different. You can fight across realms. Naturally, you can also attack at the level of an earthly sovereign." Hearing this, Xiao Tianxuan's eyes lit up. Everyone else's eyes were also filled with boundless light. At this time, Night Sorrow looked at Jingyin and asked, Jingyin, you have some memories of the armored zombie. Is there any record of the opportunity in it? Currently, we are in the dark and do not know anything. There are some. Jingyin organized her words and said faintly, in the armored zombie's memory, a great opportunity will appear in the sky of the grotto heavens every million years. The earthly sovereign's rules and essence will fall from the sky. But every time, the competition is very fierce. Many cave masters will fall in the competition. This is also the reason why the armored zombie is crazily accumulating divine souls. In addition, many sovereigns from the eternal sovereign realm will appear. Will the cave masters of the three grotto heavens appear? After Jingyin finished speaking, Night Sorrow asked. If there were no accidents, the competition for the opportunity would definitely be a big scene. In a chaotic battle, if there were three earthly sovereigns, it would be too dangerous. Although their strength would be suppressed, ordinary sovereigns would not be able to fight against them. There will also be opportunities in the sky of the three grotto heavens. The opportunities in the three grotto heavens will be much stronger than those in the 3,000 grotto heavens. Generally speaking, the three cave masters only need to guard the opportunities in the three grotto heavens. He wouldn't abandon the watermelon to pick up the sesame. However, if someone wants to steal the fortune from the three grotto heavens, they will definitely be attacked crazily. Jingyin organized her thoughts and explained to everyone. Everyone in the divine world was filled with fighting spirit. Without a doubt, the upcoming opportunity would definitely be a crazy fight for it. In the midst of fortuitous encounters, there were bound to be cruel killings. However, if one could emerge from the cruel slaughter and snatch a large number of opportunities, one would be able to become a new force. These people from the God world would also successfully advance to the autarch level. That way, he would be able to catch up with the experts of the older generation and be able to hold his own. Especially Night Sorrow, if he could successfully advance, he would definitely reach the heavens in a single bound. He was about to break away from the sovereign realm and reach the level of the Earth Sovereign. After we get the opportunity, we will give it to Night Sorrow first and strive to let him break through to the Supreme Being level first. This is a big deal. Does anyone have any objections? After Jingyin finished speaking, Xiao Tianxian pondered for a moment before speaking. What's there to disagree about? Brother Yi advancing to the Supreme Being level is the key to saving the two deputy city lords. Of course, we agree. Wang Jianzong said indifferently and continued. But I say, Brother Xiao, we are all going through life and death together. Things like resources, don't talk about it in the future. It's unnecessary and will affect our relationship. Hehe, that's right. Between us, there's no distinction between us. Jin Xian also said with a smile. Xiao Tianxian also laughed at their words. Yes, it's my fault. I apologize to everyone. At this moment, Yuan Fengxue asked curiously, Oh right, Jingyan. When will the opportunity that you mentioned arrive? According to the armored zombie's memory, it should be around 30 years. After Jingyan said this, she pondered for a moment and continued. Generally speaking, whenever this period approaches, there will be many people entering the big and small grotto heavens. If there are no accidents, there will definitely be people entering the grotto heavens we are in. There will be a lot of battles. It's better if people come. Anyway, our divine world territory has no friends in the eternal supreme world. When the time comes, we will kill whoever comes. Wang Jianzong said with hostility. All these years, under the suppression of the top-ranked territories, the territories in the eternal supreme world had indeed stood on the opposite side of the divine world territory. The reason why the divine world territory could survive until now was basically because of the prestige of the supreme longevity. If we kill a few more, maybe we can accumulate enough resources to let one of you advance to the sovereign level. However, killing sovereigns can only obtain the sovereign level rules and essence. Night Sorrow needs the sovereign level rules and essence. He has no use for these. After Wang Jianzong finished speaking, Little Seven said eagerly. This is indeed a good thing. You guys are so talented that you don't need to consider absorbing the ordinary sovereign level rules and essence, but I need them. Haha, next time let me advance. Nie Zhonglin, who had not spoken for a long time, said with a smile. In the past, Jin Xian was the weakest in this team. But now, the weakest one was Nie Zhonglin. Nie Zhonglin was a little unwilling to accept the current situation. He thought that although the earlier one advanced, the weaker the accumulation, it was still better than being last forever. Since Zhonglin thinks so, we will naturally support you. Nie Zhonglin finally spoke, and Night Sorrow immediately supported him. After that, the people of the Divine World territory returned to the small grotto heaven controlled by Jing Yun, and waited patiently for the arrival of the other territories' cultivators. When they entered the grotto heaven, they randomly appeared in the small grotto heaven in front of them. And it should be the same for the others. Therefore, they were not worried that a large number of sovereigns would enter at once. However, after waiting in the grotto heaven for 2 years, not a single sovereign appeared. Wang Jianzong could not sit still anymore, and asked Night Sorrow, "Brother Yi, is the concealment array that you set up still there? Use the image stone to observe what happened at the entrance of the grotto heaven. Is that okay?" "Sure. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it," Night Sorrow replied. Speaking of which, it had been a few years since they entered the grotto heaven, and he was not sure if the image stone was still there. "That's right. It's still there, and it's in perfect condition." Night Sorrow confirmed that the image stone in the concealment array was in perfect condition. Immediately, an image was constructed in the grotto heaven. This image was naturally from the image stone, and it recorded the situation at the entrance of the grotto heaven. "Very good. With these images, we can see all the possible opponents in advance." After the image appeared, Wang Jianzong said excitedly. Chapter 3051. It's just a part of the eternal supreme world. The enemies in the grotto heaven should all be very strong. What we need to pay attention to the most is still them. After saying this, Yishang continued. "However, I don't think so. In our small grotto heaven, the enemies we may encounter will be clear at a glance. This is very advantageous for the battle. How about this? When we have nothing to do, we will cultivate here. One of us will pay attention to the image." "Good. Then you all cultivate. I will pay attention to the image." Nie Zhonglin volunteered. If he did nothing and directly entered the eternal divine tower to cultivate, he would really be embarrassed. After Nie Zhonglin began to pay attention to the image sent by the image stone, the rest of the people in the God World territory entered the state of cultivation one by one. In terms of realm, they have all reached the peak of the supreme level. It is impossible to break through in a short period of time. Therefore, under the guidance of Night Sorrow, they began to use the divine finger to create their own absolute art. After explaining the general theory, Night Sorrow also began to study the divine finger and mysterious sky secret shadow. He had also studied these two divine abilities before, but his study was not very detailed. The fusion of the absolute art is also not considered the top. And in the next fight for the opportunity, there will probably be thousands of supremes. It will definitely be a big scene, but it will also contain endless danger. If you are not careful, you will be sneak attacked. Therefore, Night Sorrow wants to fuse an even more powerful absolute art in the next 30 years or so. This time, he wants to add something of his own into the absolute art. However, after studying for more than 2 years, he has just made some progress. Nie Zhonglin reminded. "Everyone pay attention. Someone is preparing to enter the large and small grotto heaven. Looking at their clothes, they should be people from the Moon Shadow territory. There are 12 supremes in their group. 3 of them are half-step Earth supremes. Their strength is not to be underestimated. Everyone get ready for battle. If they descend here, everyone will use their divine abilities at the first moment. Try to give them a heavy blow at the first moment." After waking up from the state of enlightenment, Night Sorrow immediately instructed. "Don't worry. We won't be polite at all." Thousand Sword Sect and Morong Jinlu rubbed their fists and said, "If it had been a few hundred years ago, any one of the 12 people from the Moon Shadow Estate would have been able to kill these people from the divine world. But now the 11 of them, including Night Sorrow, had completely grown up. Izin. Everyone prepare to attack." Seeing that the people of the Moon Shadow Estate had entered their respective grotto heavens, Nie Zhonglin reminded them. At the same time, He was already preparing the god's finger. They were prepared to launch an unexpected attack the moment the people from the Moon Shadow Estate appeared. In fact, Nie Zhonglin wasn't the only one. Night Sorrow and Xiao Tianxian were the same. They had also prepared the god's finger, and were waiting for the people of the Moon Shadow Estate to descend into the small grotto heaven before them. However, things did not go as planned. In the end, the people of the Moon Shadow Estate did not appear. After calming himself down, Night Sorrow asked in confusion, Jingyan, if everyone entered one of the grotto heavens, they would be teleported to one of the smaller grotto heavens. How could outsiders compete for the opportunities above the 3,000 paradises? After all, if the cave master doesn't let them go, they won't be able to leave. After the opportunity opens, I'll try to find a way out. Those who enter the grotto heavens will be directly teleported to the sky above the 3,000 grotto heavens. There is no possibility of being trapped by the grotto masters, Jingyan said. He said. Then why did the people of the Moon Shadow Estate come more than 20 years in advance? After all, with the strength of the Moon Shadow Estate, they should be very clear about this kind of opportunity. Night Sorrow speculated doubtfully. Who knows, the Moon Shadow Estate might have already taken control of some of the small grotto heavens. They might have a cave master in their group, and they might be able to teleport directly into the small grotto heavens, Jingyan analyzed. Yes, what you said is very reasonable. But if that's the case, then the only people who can enter our little grotto heaven are hotheads like us. Night Sorrow said with a smile. He thought to himself, there really aren't many people like them, who are fearless and directly charge in. What happened later proved this point. In the following 10 years or so, some of the cultivators who appeared should be similar to those from the Moon Shadow Estate. Even though they had their own grotto heavens, none of them had entered this small grotto heaven. And Night Sorrow, in these 10 years, had also completely integrated a new unique skill. Mysterious Immortal Golden Slash. This move had integrated the speed of the mysterious Sky Secret Shadow, the attack power similar to the Divine Finger, and the attribute attack of the Golden Heavenly Halberd. It was very powerful. As for Xiao Tianxian, the Myriad Sword Sect, and the others, they had also gained something. Especially Wu Lingfei, who used her bloodline talent to integrate a very powerful flame attack. Phoenix burns the 9 heavens. After she struck out this attack, every wisp of flame was like the Divine Finger, with great destructive power. After she developed it, Jingyan, who also had the Phoenix bloodline, simply learned this move from her. It didn't take long for her to master it. Because Jingyan was a supreme being, her execution of this move was stronger than Wu Lingfei's. Her current attack had completely left Xiao Tianxian, the Myriad Sword Sect, and the others in the dust. Among the crowd, she was second only to Night Sorrow. Although Night Sorrow hadn't advanced to the Supreme Being realm, his strongest attack could already challenge a half-step earthly Supreme Being. It wasn't something that Jingyan could compare to. Under Wu Lingfei and Jingyan's guidance, everyone began to exchange ideas and gained a lot. Out of confidentiality, Night Sorrow didn't tell anyone about the mysterious Sky Secret Shadow, afraid that the Supreme Longevity's possession of Feng Wuji would be exposed. Someone's here. Someone's finally here. It's Supreme Being Qinghe. Qingyan Territory's Supreme Being Qinghe. In the battle for Providence, he was one of the 108 Supreme Beings. While everyone was exchanging ideas, Nie Zhonglin, who had been waiting for someone to come, spoke again excitedly. However, after he finished speaking, he said in surprise, "Oh no! Qingyan Territory has sent 16 Supreme Beings at once. 3 of them are half-step earthly Supreme Beings. With their strength, they're not to be trifled with. If they enter the small grotto heaven we're in, we might not be their match. What's there to be afraid of? If we're not their match, let Jingyan teleport us out." Hearing Nie Zhonglin's words, the Myriad Sword Sect said disdainfully, "Yes, that makes sense. We're in an invincible position." Nie Zhonglin smiled and formed the Divine Finger again at the same time. The others in the heavenly realm were also on guard. However, this time, they were no longer channeling the Divine Finger. They were all preparing for a new ultimate technique. And this time, the people of Qingyan Territory were really randomly teleported to the small grotto heaven they were in. Clan M. Chapter 3052. Attack. After the people of the Green Cloud territory teleported in, Night Sorrow immediately roared. He knew very well that the 108 Supremes who could participate in the battle for Providence were all half-step earthly Supremes, and had a certain status in their territories. None of them were easy to deal with. Therefore, in terms of overall strength, the other party was definitely stronger than them. The people of the Celestial Realm had to act quickly, and deal a heavy blow to the other party before they landed on the ground. And that was indeed the case in reality. Although Supremacy Ching He and the others of the Green Cloud territory had been vigilant, they did not expect to encounter all kinds of attacks as soon as they landed. Boom, boom, boom. After Night Sorrow gave the order, the attacks of the people of the Celestial Realm were all focused on the people of the Green Cloud territory. That kind of concentrated public attack made these supreme beings feel like they were in a terrible fix. For a time, the people of the Green Cloud territory were bombarded into a sorry state. Even Supremacy Ching He, who was leading the team, was unable to stand steadily. Continue to attack, use secret treasures and divine artifacts. After the people of the Green Cloud territory lost their footing, Night Sorrow continued to remind them. Kill. Then the people of the Celestial Realm roared loudly. Just as the people of the Green Cloud territory were about to start preparing, they all raised their strength to the maximum, and fought with thousands of people. Although the small grotto heaven in front of them was not big, it was more than enough to accommodate dozens of people fighting. Although the people of the Celestial Realm, who had the upper hand, did not have the advantage in terms of numbers and strength, they obviously caught the other party off guard in the battle. Many of the cultivators of the Green Cloud territory fell into a passive state before they could use many of their methods. For example, Supremacy Ching He of the Green Cloud territory, who was a half-step earthly supremacy, was suppressed by Night Sorrow's crazy attacks. Your Night Sorrow of the Celestial Realm? Good, very good. The younger generation is really to be feared. After all, Chingha had participated in the battle for Providence, and was very familiar with Night Sorrow. He immediately recognized Night Sorrow's identity. However, he didn't underestimate Yishang just because he was a half-step supreme being. Night Sorrow had led an extremely weak Celestial Realm territory to win the battle for Providence by himself. This showed that he was a person of great providence. Supremacy Ching He knew that in terms of luck, he was definitely not as good as Night Sorrow's. The situation in front of him also proved this point. The only thing he could rely on was his powerful strength. Different half-step earthly supremes had different levels of strength. As a Supremacy Ching He was a supremacy of the Celestial Realm. He was very confident in his strength supremacy of the Celestial Realm. After Supremacy Ching He spoke, Night Sorrow said coldly, "When it comes to fighting, he's an opponent. There's nothing of the younger generation. All these years, you people have been humiliating the God world in every possible way. Now is the time to settle the karma." Ha 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 ha. If you're talking about the Celestial Realm's territory, our Chingha group was really involved in it. And I've personally killed a female cultivator named Supremacy Roi, and even severely injured a male cultivator named Supremacy of the Horn Clan. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Supremacy Ching He sneered and roared. The next one to be killed is you, Night Sorrow. Don't think that you can behave atrociously in the supreme space, just because you have amazing providence. You're still too inexperienced. At the same time, Supremacy Ching He summoned his halberd and smashed it toward Night Sorrow. The target that Night Sorrow had chosen to attack was Supremacy Ching He. One of his arms was injured, and his primordial energy was constantly leaking out. However, the battle had already begun, so Supremacy Ching He did not have the time to pay attention to it. His slash unleashed an endless amount of golden light that slashed horizontally at Yishang. This seemed to be the simplest slash, but Night Sorrow suddenly felt like his body was bound, and he could only take the attack head-on. So be it. Who's afraid? Mystic Immortal Golden Slash. Today, I'll take revenge for the Horn Clan's supremacy. Faced with Supremacy Ching He's powerful attack, Night Sorrow roared and used the Immortal Golden Slash that he had just comprehended. He was not going to hold back at all against Supremacy Ching He, who had severely injured the Horn Clan's supremacy. Boom. When the two attacks collided, A shocking energy fluctuation immediately erupted. The loud sound of the collision caused some of the surrounding cultivators to be shaken to the point that they were unable to stabilize their minds. Quite a number of people were looking in their direction. When they saw this, the people of the Qingyan territory were dumbfounded. They suddenly realized that Supremacy Qing He's halberd had been broken by Night Sorrow's spear. How is this possible? My immortal slaying war halberd. You deserve to die. The moment the immortal slaying war halberd in his hand was broken, Supremacy Qing He was stunned for a moment in disbelief before he flew into a rage. The immortal slaying war halberd had fought with him for several cycles, so they had a very deep relationship. But he did not expect it to be broken by Night Sorrow today. Even the artifact spirit inside had been destroyed by this attack. How could he not be furious? If you want to kill me, you need strength, not words. You should be a veteran supremacy, yet you don't even understand this. Night Sorrow looked at him coldly. While they were talking, he used his divine soul power to scan the others in the battle. The people of the Qingyan territory, who were now unstable, did not show their combat strength at all. Although the many cultivators of the heavenly realm could not suppress the other party, they were evenly matched for the time being. Jing Yun was fighting against the other half-step earthly supremacy of the Qingyan territory, and she vaguely had the upper hand. Speaking of which, the Myriad Sword sect was in the most sorry state in the heavenly realm. He had sacrificed another half-step earthly supremacy to pin down the Qingyan territory, but he was beaten back repeatedly. At this moment, Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to Little Seven. Little Seven, Restriction Breaker Hammer, go and help Brother Wan. Okay. Don't worry. With our help, he won't be so passive anymore. Little Seven responded and flew to Myriad Sword Sect's side with the Restriction Breaker Hammer. With their help, the master of the Myriad Sword Sect immediately smiled. He glanced at Yishan and continued to fight. Supremacy Qing He, who was ridiculed by Night Sorrow, was completely enraged. His veins were bulging, and he directly ignited the power of his bloodline and fought with his life on the line. Junior. This is not your time yet. After Qing He ignited his bloodline power, he put away the broken halberd and used his speed to close in on Night Sorrow. He was ready to engage in close combat. Close combat, huh? Come on. I'm not afraid of you. Night Sorrow, who was very confident in his close combat ability, saw through Supremacy Qing He's intentions and was not afraid at all. On the contrary, he was quite excited. He put away the golden heavenly halberd and fought with his opponent. Clan M. Chapter 3053. Junior. You overestimate yourself. Seeing that Night Sorrow had chosen to fight him head-on, a sinister smile appeared on Supremacy Qing He's face. At the same time he roared inwardly, Green Cloud Myriad Transformations Art. He instantly increased the strength of his body by dozens of times and started fighting with Night Sorrow. As a half-step earthly sovereign, Supremacy Qing He's strength was about the same as Night Sorrow's. It was just that his body was slightly weaker. However, after using the Green Cloud Myriad Transformations Art, he instantly gained the upper hand. This was because the Green Cloud Myriad Transformations Art was a divine ability passed down in the Green Cloud territory. How did the strength of Supremacy Qing He's body increase so much in such a short period of time? Night Sorrow, who had been fighting with him for a while, frowned and used the sea serpent's eye to observe. He immediately saw something that normal eyes could not see. The surface of Supremacy Qing He's body was covered in a layer of green energy runes. In the subsequent attacks, Night Sorrow confirmed that it was this layer of green energy runes that was taking effect. His melee attacks were basically all blocked by these energy runes. Therefore they did not have much effect. What an amazing ultimate technique. Or perhaps, you're using a divine ability? After resisting for a while, Night Sorrow looked at Supremacy Qing He and said, for the time being he really had no way of breaking through his opponent's defense in melee combat. He could only passively take a beating. Humph. You have a good eye. But what can you do? Our Green Cloud territory's divine ability has an amazing defense. You have no way of breaking it. While suppressing Night Sorrow, Supremacy Qing He sent a voice transmission confidently. Your Green Cloud Territory's divine ability is indeed very powerful. But it's not invincible. It was obvious that the Green Cloud Territory's divine ability was to increase the cultivator's defense. However, the Godly Realm's divine ability was the sharpest attack. During the conversation, Night Sorrow, who was constantly thinking, knew that he did not have the chance to activate the Divine Finger, or the mysterious immortal Golden Slash in melee combat. Under such circumstances, he did not take out his golden heavenly halberd. Instead, he started thinking about a new ultimate technique. After being suppressed by Supreme Qing He for about 100 breaths, Night Sorrow finally comprehended a new supreme technique amidst the other party's arrogant laughter. He channeled all the power of the Divine Finger into his fingertip. Then he would use the power contained in his finger to fight against Paragon Qing He. After the power of the Divine Finger was channeled to his fingertips, Night Sorrow's next attack produced an immediate effect. He scratched one of Paragon Qing He's arms, leaving a bloody wound that was so deep that his bones could be seen. How is this possible? That's impossible. Supremacy Qing He had a look of disbelief on his face when Night Sorrow scratched his arm until it bled. What shocked him wasn't that he was injured, but that the divine ability of the Clear Sky Territory was broken. This was something he simply could not accept. Nothing is impossible. Since your defense has been breached, then just wait for your death. In the process of being suppressed, although Night Sorrow was passive, he relied on his strong fighting spirit to successfully resolve the opponent's attacks time and time again. At this moment, he was already able to breach the other party's defenses, so it did not take long for him to gain the upper hand in the battle. How is this possible? Could it be that he has already comprehended the divine finger of the divine realm's divine ability to perfection? He can change the way he uses it at will? During the battle, Supremacy Qing He frowned as he thought about this. However, no matter how he thought about it, it was useless. Because he was completely suppressed. How dare you get distracted while fighting me? Night Sorrow, who knew that his opponent was letting his imagination run wild, roared and attacked again. This time, not only did Night Sorrow use his finger to channel the Divine Finger, but he also cast the Divine Essence trapping formation. He trapped Supremacy Qing He within it. Junior, you're always so overconfident. Let's see how you're going to die. Logically speaking, the trapped Supremacy Qing He should have been in despair. However, he did not. Instead, he burst into a confident grin. Then, Supremacy Qing He summoned a battle pet that was about as strong as him in the enclosed space. This battle pet was a tall white ape. The white ape had 8 arms, and each of them held a weapon. After being summoned, the white ape roared at the sky and cooperated with Supremacy Qing He to launch a fierce attack on Night Sorrow. This isn't going to be easy. In a one-on-one battle, Night Sorrow could easily suppress Supremacy Qing He. However, now that he summoned the white ape, it was a 2-on-1 battle. In an instant, Night Sorrow was once again suppressed. He felt a little helpless as he murmured to himself. At this moment, the other people in the Divine Realm were also evenly matched with the other party. They were vaguely in a passive position. The only one who had the upper hand was the Myriad Sword Sect. With the help of the restriction-breaking hammer and Little Seven, he was suppressing the other party's half-step earthly sovereign. Therefore, Night Sorrow immediately sent a voice transmission to the Myriad Sword Sect. Brother Wan, I'm placing all my hopes on you in this battle. Cooperate with the restriction-breaking hammer and Little Seven, and quickly kill your opponent. Then come and help me. Don't worry. We'll be able to finish him off very soon. While the Myriad Sword Sect sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow, he unleashed his strongest fighting spirit. He transformed into a sword and fought with the other party. However, although he had the upper hand, it was still difficult for him to kill the other party in a short time. What should I do? The Myriad Sword Sect, who knew that Night Sorrow was fighting against 2 people at once, was extremely anxious. However, there was nothing he could do. At this moment, Little Seven suddenly said, "Forget it. I'll unleash my power once." How are you going to unleash your power? The Myriad Sword Sect asked curiously. You'll know when you see it. Little Seven sighed, and the tower suddenly erupted with a bright light that filled the sky. These rays of light quickly gathered together. It formed a transparent human body. After the energy gathered into a human body, its strength was similar to that of a half-step earthly sovereign. Then, it did not continue to help the myriad sword sect. Instead, it rushed to Night Sorrow's side. "Your little seven?" Yi Shang asked doubtfully when he saw the performance of the ability to measure his body. "That's me. But this time, I've used up a lot of my accumulated power for hundreds of thousands of years. You'll have to compensate me later," Little Seven said faintly. "Don't worry. I'll leave most of the gains this time to you," Night Sorrow said with a smile. If Little Seven had not unleashed his power at the critical moment, their heavenly realm territory would really have to withdraw from this small grotto heaven. Now they had the confidence to fight. It's not just the battle in front of us. During the fight for fortuitous opportunities, I'll also absorb a lot of energy. Otherwise, it'll be very difficult to make up for the consumption this time, Little Seven said and continued. "I'll help you restrain the white ape. You continue to fight with supremacy, Qing He. Remember, end the battle quickly. I won't be able to hold on for long." "Don't worry. I'll kill him as soon as possible," Night Sorrow said. Then he added, "As for the energy, you can absorb as much as you want." Clan M. Chapter 3054. "Ah, since you've said that, anything is negotiable." Little Seven replied cheerfully and started fighting the 8-armed white ape. Strangely, after the battle started, Little Seven, who was originally in his human form, suddenly transformed into the 8-armed white ape. The 8-armed white ape fighting him was completely enraged by Little Seven and started attacking him crazily. However, Little Seven, who had transformed into the 8-armed white ape, was not afraid of the 8-armed white ape at all and easily blocked its attacks. Seeing that Little Seven was temporarily holding off the 8-armed white ape, Night Sorrow felt a little relieved. However, he knew very well that Little Seven would not be able to hold on for long. The Myriad Sword sect would also not be able to withstand the other party's half-step earthly supremacy. Therefore, when facing Paragon Qing He again, Night Sorrow unleashed all his combat power and fought him crazily. This time, Paragon Qing He's defense was no longer unbreakable in close combat. Not long after the battle started, he was forced into a passive position. After being suppressed by Night Sorrow, Paragon Qing He, who was in danger of losing his life at any moment, looked at the others and realized that both sides were evenly matched. The other battles were very tense, and they were not progressing as quickly as his side. He had wanted to call for help, but when he realized that there was no one to call for help, he suddenly had an ominous feeling. He thought to himself, "That little B** starred is much stronger than I expected. There's nowhere to run to in the grotto heaven. What should I do? How dare you get distracted? Die." Night Sorrow, who realized that Paragon Qing He was starting to think of a way out, still had the upper hand. With a loud roar, he broke one of Paragon Qing He's arms. After losing half of his arm, Paragon Qing He let out a beast-like roar. His brows were filled with resentment. However, he quickly put away his resentful expression. He sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. "Night Sorrow, actually, we don't have to resort to violence to solve this matter. We can definitely talk about it." "Oh, what do you want to talk about?" Night Sorrow asked in return. His attacks didn't stop for even a moment. Don't continue to kill us. If you let us go, I'll secretly teach you the Qingyun territory's inherited mystical ability, the Qingyun Myriad Transformations art." After Paragon Qing He said that, Night Sorrow was still attacking him. He continued, "I can swear that what I've imparted to you is the true divine ability of inheritance. There is absolutely no falsehood in it. You've already mastered the God's finger. If you learn the myriad transformations, you'll definitely be able to fuse them together to create a new and powerful mystical ability. It's also a good thing for the upcoming fight for the opportunity." "Oh, why do you say that?" "We can really do it." Hearing Paragon Qing He's words, Night Sorrow was a little tempted. The most precious thing in every territory was the inheritance of the divine ability. Night Yi was the myriad sword myriad transformations, Night God. However, he was not a child. He continued to attack the other party during the conversation. It's however, it will be very painful for me to pass on the inheritance to you privately. If the people in the territory find out, I will definitely die a horrible death. While we're fighting, I'll secretly teach you. Also, you have to promise not to use this mystical ability in front of the cultivators of the Qingyun territory. How about that? Supremacy Qing, he bargained with him. He was clearly a coward who was afraid of death. You're about to be destroyed, so what right do you have to bargain? Night Sorrow snorted in disdain and said, immediately swear a heavenly Tao oath to teach me the mystical ability. As for me, I won't make any oaths to restrict myself. However, I can promise that I'll try my best not to let the people of the Qingyun territory know about this. That's great. Paragon Qing, he replied, and immediately swore a heavenly Tao oath. Then he secretly taught the myriad transformations art to Night Sorrow. After learning the myriad transformations art, Night Sorrow had already mastered 3 mystical abilities. However, he did not have the time to study it now. He sent a voice transmission to Paragon Qing and said, how do you think we should end this battle? There's a way. I'll pretend to lose to you, and let you capture me. After you capture me, you can kill all the people of the Qingyun territory present here. Then you can let me go. Paragon Qing, he sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. In order to survive and not expose what had happened today, he had really made up his mind. In order to survive, you're really despicable and shameless. Night Sorrow said disdainfully, but he did not object. After all, Paragon Qing, he had already used the myriad transformations art to buy his life. In the ensuing battle, Paragon Qing, he was indeed captured by Night Sorrow, just as he said. Then the 8-armed white ape was also recalled. Without the 2 top combatants, Paragon Qing and the 8-armed white ape, the strength of the Qingyun territory decreased by about 30% in an instant. How could they resist the attacks of the people of the heavenly realm? After Night Sorrow joined the battle, the people of the Qingyun territory were quickly suppressed. However, they were not as humble as Paragon Qing. They had no intention of surrendering at all. In the end, they were all sucked into the eternal divine tower. This time they were transformed into laws and essences. Little Seven absorbed all of them, and did not leave them for Niezhonglin. This was because he had consumed a lot of energy at a critical moment, and needed these to make up for it. After wiping out the people of the Qingyun territory, Night Sorrow let Paragon Qing out. He said, you can leave now. Alright. I'll leave right away. Paragon Qing nodded and bowed. Then he said, please teleport me out. Jingyun, let him go. Night Sorrow glanced at Jingyun. Let him go. Jingyun, who usually obeyed Yishang's every word, was surprised when she heard this. It was not only her. The others in the heavenly realm were also puzzled. Seeing everyone's reaction, Night Sorrow continued, let him go, and I'll explain the cause and effect of this matter. Alright. You can leave now. When Jingyun heard this, she immediately opened the passage to the small grotto heaven, and let Paragon Qing out. After Paragon Qing left, Night Sorrow immediately told them about the Qingyun myriad transformations art. Hearing this, everyone in the heavenly realm came to a realization and felt that it was appropriate. At this moment, Night Sorrow said with some doubt, actually, I think there's something fishy about this matter. They clearly know that they can enter but not leave the small grotto heaven. And it's very difficult to kill the cave master. It's very easy for them to be trapped in the small grotto heaven. So why would they come here with blind confidence? That's indeed the case. Maybe they have a way to leave the small grotto heaven? Or maybe it's because of something else. Xiao Tianxian made a random analysis, but he did not give any useful information. Yi Shang and the others didn't pursue the matter. After chatting for a while, Night Sorrow said, it's better to enjoy together than to enjoy alone. Next, I'll impart the Qingyun myriad transformations art to everyone. Clan M. Chapter 3055. Ah, Brother Yi is really generous. If an ordinary person obtained such a good thing, they would definitely hide it. There are very few people who are so generous to share it. When Night Sorrow was about to share the Clear Cloud 1000 Transformations art, Myriad Sword Sect immediately laughed and praised. Everyone is on the same side. There's nothing that can't be shared. Night Sorrow said with a smile and continued. It's the same as the God's finger. I'll teach it one by one. After everyone learns it, try your best to comprehend and fuse the two divine abilities. Strive to fuse them into a new absolute art. Good. Don't worry. With the God's finger as a precedent, after we learn the Clear Cloud Thousand Transformations art, we will definitely have great gains. Morong Ji-Lu said confidently. In today's battle, if not for everyone comprehending a new absolute art from the God's finger, they would definitely not have been able to resist the cultivators of the Clear Cloud territory for so long. Since they had tasted the sweetness, they also had the mood and motivation to continue studying. Changlin, go first. In recent years, Nie Zhonglin had been staring at the screen and did not cultivate much. Night Sorrow was the first to impart the Clear Cloud Thousand Transformations art to him. After teaching, Night Sorrow looked at Nie Zhonglin and said, Changlin, the energy absorbed by the Eternal Divine Tower this time is all used to repair itself. So, you need to postpone the matter of you advancing to the supreme stage. After everyone finishes learning, I'll let the restriction-breaking hammer stare at the screen. Let's all cultivate together. Alright. I have to catch up with the progress too. In the battle just now, the combat strength that Nie Zhonglin displayed was already a certain gap with everyone. At this moment, he was ready to work hard to catch up. Go and fuse. I heard that the Eternal Supreme World's divine abilities can be fused infinitely. It's fine if it's just 2 or 3, but if you fuse too many, it will be a test of your comprehension. It shouldn't be difficult for you to fuse 2 divine abilities now. You can add your own comprehension of cultivation into it. Night Sorrow instructed Nie Zhonglin, and continued to teach the Clear Cloud Thousand Transformations art to the others. After teaching, Night Sorrow rested for a while, and began to study the fusion of the 3 divine abilities. About 2 years' time, he fused a new absolute art. This was a very sharp spear technique. The offensive power of the Divine General Finger, the defensive power of the Green Cloud Mantra, the speed of the Xiantian Secret Shadow, and the battle experience in his head were all combined into one. Night Sorrow eventually named this spear technique, Qingxian Godly Spear Technique. After this move was fused, Night Sorrow decided not to use the spear arts that he had comprehended or fused in the past. This was because the Qingxian Godly Spear Technique was the essence of what he had learned in the past. He had integrated all his previous understandings into it. If I were to fight another round with Qingxian Prime, I should be able to win even more easily. After fusing the Azure Profound Divine Spear Technique, Night Sorrow practiced it a few times in his mind and confirmed that it was much stronger than the Immortal Golden Slash. However, the others were still fusing their own unique skills, so he didn't make any noise. He calmly stayed where he was and tried to figure out the other absolute arts, but he didn't gain much. Not long after, the male hammer of the prohibition-breaking hammer reminded him. Night Sorrow, another cultivator has shown up. Looking at their strength, they should be very strong. Oh, let me see. Night Sorrow, who had been awakened, immediately looked at the screen. The group of people in the screen did look very strong. Moreover, one of them seemed to have the strength of an earthly sovereign. They should be from the Heavenly Owl territory, and are our sworn enemies. The one leading them should be an earthly sovereign. Logically speaking, an earthly sovereign would be suppressed to the level of a half-step earthly sovereign in the supreme space. However, I think this group of people must have the means to break through the grotto heaven. They are definitely not to be trifled with. Night Sorrow said with a frown as he thought of Mu Tianai, who had been killed. Tianshao territory was one of the 4 holy lands of the eternal supreme world. Moreover, both sides had old and new grudges. If they encountered each other, there would definitely be a battle. The current strength of the heavenly realm was definitely not a match for Tianshao territory. Other than an earthly sovereign, Tianshao territory also had 5 half-step earthly sovereigns, more than 10 upper earthly sovereigns, and more than 20 ordinary sovereigns. With such a lineup, let alone the heavenly realm, any other territory would not dare to say that they would have the upper hand. Their strength is really strong, Xiong Chui exclaimed. He could faintly feel a trace of pressure towards the earthly sovereigns of Tianshao territory. We'll try our best to avoid them. Moreover, I think they're after the opportunity in the sky above the grotto heaven. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used such a lineup. Night Sorrow looked at the cultivators of Tianshao territory and analyzed their movements. The opportunity in the sky above the 3,000 grotto heavens was useless to an earthly sovereign. The earthly sovereigns of Tianshao territory had brought so many sovereigns here. They were obviously up to something big. Hearing this, Xiong Chue, who was originally a little afraid of the earthly sovereigns of Tianshao territory, suddenly said, "If there's a big battle in the winter, can we try and get a share of it? If we can get something that's useful to earthly sovereigns, then that's a good idea, but it's too dangerous. But now that you mention it, I'm really tempted. When the time comes, we'll observe the situation carefully. If there's a chance, we'll give it a shot." When Night Sorrow heard Xiong Chue's words, he pondered for a moment and thought of a way to pull a tooth out of the tiger's mouth. Anyway, the realm of the gods was currently the enemy of the entire world. He was not afraid of offending anyone. When the people of the realm of the gods woke up from their cultivation, it would be very close to the opportunity. At this time, Night Sorrow told them about snatching the food from the tiger's mouth. Hearing Night Sorrow's suggestion, the people of the realm of the gods frowned. Although they were tempted, they felt that if they attacked the earthly sovereigns, they might be killed. Here's what I'm thinking. I'll use the resources in the 3,000 grotto heavens to advance to the level of a sovereign. Then I'll go after the good stuff in the grotto heavens. Night Sorrow said, then continued. But this matter requires everyone's cooperation. Because of the importance of war, I have to advance to the level of a sovereign in the shortest time possible. I need everyone to fight for resources for me. That's not a problem. Helping Brother Yi to advance into the supremacy stage. Wasn't this something that we've already agreed on long ago? When he heard Night Sorrow's words, Jin Xian's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. The other cultivators of the realm of the gods were also filled with fighting spirit. However, before the opportunity came, another group of cultivators arrived in the grotto heavens controlled by Jing Yun. These people were from the Azure territory, and the leader was Lan Xian from the Azure territory. After arriving in the grotto heavens, Yuan Fengxue wanted to greet Lan Xian. But at this time Lan Xian sneered and said, "I didn't expect to meet you here." Chapter 3056. Blue Heart's tone was provocative, and there was a mocking smile on her face. Her attitude was very playful, not like friends greeting each other, but more like enemies meeting. When Blue Heart had cooperated with the people of the God world, they had treated her well, and allowed her to advance. That was until Night Sorrow had a conflict with Fairy Yu Yan, and the others of the Moon Shadow territory in the square, where the finals were held. Blue Heart had parted ways with Night Sorrow and the others in front of everyone. The people of the God world were very unhappy with such an attitude. Yuan Fengxue, who had wanted to greet her amiably, raised his eyebrows and sneered. Blue Heart. Blue Heart. Back then, my territory in the God realm took good care of you during the battle for Providence. Is this your attitude when you meet us? Ha! I'm a sovereign. Do I need to be nice when I meet you ants of the sovereign realm? Blue Heart laughed out loud after she finished speaking. Some of the supreme beings standing behind him started laughing too. Their laughter was very loud and ear-piercing. The people of the God world glanced around. Including Blue Heart, there were a total of 12 sovereigns in the Azure territory. There was even a half-step earthly sovereign among them. Blue Heart, you're really an ingrate. You've become a sovereign, and you even came with a group of sovereigns. Do you think you're so great? Master Wan Jian glanced sideways at Blue Heart. I've become a sovereign. I'm not the same kind of person as you. Blue Heart laughed disdainfully when she heard Master Wan Jian's words. She looked at Night Sorrow and said, Night Sorrow, you were the champion of the Battle of Providence that day. Now, you can hand over the champion's reward and the replica of the Eternal Divine Tower. If I remember correctly, that replica should be an earthly sovereign artifact. A sovereign ant like you can't protect it. In her opinion, she had more than 10 sovereigns on her side, while the people of the God world had participated in the Battle of Providence. There was no sovereign at all. The difference in strength between the two sides was like heaven and earth. Dominator rank ants? After Blueheart finished speaking, Knight Sorrow revealed a trace of a cold smile on his face. Since the ruler is an ant, why don't you, a supreme rank expert, fight with a dominator rank ant like me? If you win, I'll give you everything you want. Haha. Knight Sorrow, I know that you are a person with great luck, and you have the ability to fight across realms. But don't you think it's ridiculous for you to say something like that at this time and place? Lon Excian sneered and pointed behind her. Today, there are so many Supremes in the Azure territory. They're here to do something big. I don't have time to argue with you. Hand it over immediately. Otherwise, all of you will die. You're really a heartless woman. Since that's the case, we have nothing more to say. Let's see who's better. Knight Sorrow took out the golden heavenly halberd and held it horizontally. Infuriated, he transmitted his voice to the others in the divine world. Attack. There's no need to be merciful when dealing with such people. Of course, we won't be merciful to her. The myriad sword sex people immediately replied to Knight Sorrow. The people of Azure territory looked down on them with disdain. They didn't even put them in their eyes. In fact, they didn't put them in their eyes either. After all, they had defeated the Green Cloud territory and obtained their sacred art. Compared to Azure Sky territory's lineup, Azure territory's lineup could only be described with one word: weak. However, the people of Azure territory obviously didn't think so. Seeing that Knight Sorrow had the attitude to fight, Azure territory's leader, Lan Su, raised his eyebrows in disdain and sneered. Junior, you still want to fight with us? Who gave you the courage? Kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistakes. Otherwise, you won't be able to die even if you want to. We want to die? Of course, it's impossible. Because the ones who will die are you. Yi Shang bellowed and unleashed an immortal mystical gold slash at Lan Su. He was not going to use this move after he had merged the Qingxian Godly Spear technique, or rather, the Qingxian Godly Spear. However, he felt that he didn't need to use his strongest technique against Lan Su. Oh, ignorant junior, you dare to attack me? It seems like you really don't know what a half-earthly sovereign is. As Azure Territory's #1 expert, Lan Su's heart had always been filled with flattery. His self-confidence was bursting. Seeing that Knight Sorrow was about to attack, Lan Su waved his hand casually, wanting to slap Knight Sorrow to death. The person who wanted to slap me to death last time has already been slapped to death by me. It seems like you want to repeat the same mistake. Lan Su was still so arrogant in the battle, and Knight Sorrow was completely enraged. At the same time that he attacked with the mysterious immortal golden slash, he suddenly formed a divine vitality trap array and trapped Lan Su within it. Then he suddenly attacked with the slash. Boom. Lan Su, who didn't use his full strength, didn't expect Knight Sorrow to be able to unleash an attack that wasn't inferior to his own. Due to his carelessness, he was immediately sent flying and crashed heavily into the hard stone wall of the small hollow. Your so-called half-earthly sovereign is just SOO. You can't even take one hit. Knight Sorrow sent Lan Su flying, which shocked everyone in Azure territory, especially Lon Excian, who looked as if she had seen a ghost. She knew Lan Su's strength very well. She muttered, "This is impossible. How is this possible? How many years has it been, and he has already reached this level?" Under Azure territory's full nurturing, Lon Excian had quickly advanced to the earthly sovereign level, which made her extremely proud. However, when she saw Yi Shan's battle prowess, the pride in her heart was instantly shattered. Originally, she thought that she was already ranked first among those who had participated in the Battle of Providence. There are many things that you think are impossible. Come, let's fight. At this time, Jin Xian suddenly appeared in front of Lon Excian, ready to fight. Do you think you can humiliate me? Seeing Jin Xian in front of her, Lon Excian was immediately enraged. When she came into contact with the people in the realm of the gods, she knew that Jin Xian was the weakest in the realm of the gods. Now, they had actually sent the weakest one to fight her. Wasn't this a slap in the face? But that's fine too. I'll kill you one by one. Let's see if you have Knight Sorrow's ability. Lan Xian shouted. And then the battle intent in her body completely exploded as she began to fight Jin Xian. Seeing that Jin Xian and Lan Xian were fighting, Night Sorrow reminded him. Jin Xian, use more of your merged superpowers. You don't have an advantage in terms of cultivation level, but your understanding of superpowers is definitely not something that she can compare to. Brother Yi, don't worry. I won't lose this battle. Jin Xian replied to Night Sorrow, and then used his newly merged superpower on Lan Xian. Clan M. Chapter 3057. Jin Xian's attack was a combination of the Divine Finger, the Green Cloud Thousand Transformations art, and the Golden Crow's bloodline talent. He had yet to name it. With this attack, tens of thousands of rays of golden light appeared in the air. These rays of golden light were Jin Xian's unique golden flames. These golden flames contained sharp sword rays that the Golden Crow's flames did not have before. These sword rays came from the Divine Finger. Furthermore, these sword rays had been strengthened by the Green Cloud Thousand Transformations art, so they were extremely tough. Facing this attack, Blue Heart was originally filled with arrogance. However, after choosing to face it head-on, she immediately realized that she was wrong. She, who had already become a supreme being, took this attack head-on, and her body was immediately pierced by the sword rays. If it wasn't for her good luck that her Dantian wasn't hit, she would have been crippled immediately. How is this possible? Isn't he the weakest in the realm of the gods? How did he become so strong? Blue Heart looked at Jin Xian in disbelief. She had become so pathetic in an instant. Upon closer inspection, she realized that Jin Xian's aura was not any weaker than hers. Although he was only half a step away from becoming a supreme being. What the hell is going on? Blue Heart screamed in her heart. She could not understand how Jin Xian could become so strong in such a short time. What? Can't believe what is happening? You will soon understand that a heavenly dragon is not the same as an ant. We are completely different. After Jin Xian severely injured Blue Heart, he became even more confident and continued to attack Blue Heart. While Blue Heart was fighting Jin Xian, she realized that the other people in the Azure territory were also being suppressed. Even the strongest person in their territory, Lan Su, was completely suppressed by Night Sorrow. He could not fight back at all. If he had been hit once, it might have been due to luck. However, if he was continuously suppressed, it was a reflection of his strength. How? Seeing that everyone in Azure territory was being suppressed, Blue Heart had a look of disbelief on her face as her brows furrowed. She wanted to say something, but her mind was blank. She could not say anything. She knew that if she had not been mocked, the people in the realm of the gods would not have attacked her. However, it was too late now. If she did not think of a solution, everyone in the Azure territory would be killed. This made Blue Heart feel despair. Blue Heart was being suppressed by Jin Xian, and didn't know what to do. The first person in Azure territory, Lan Su, had completely collapsed. Under Night Sorrow's suppression, he shouted, "Stop, all of you stop. Everything that happened today was a misunderstanding." Misunderstanding? You killed all of us. Is this a misunderstanding? Night Sorrow replied coldly as he waved the golden heavenly halberd in his hand. In today's battle, he did not display his strongest Qingxian godly spear technique, but he still easily suppressed his opponent. Night Sorrow was quite satisfied with this result. At this time, he glanced at the people in the divine world, and found that their eyes were locked on Lan Su's face. He immediately understood what these people were thinking. They wanted the Azure territory's divine ability. At this moment, Master 10,000 Swords transmitted his voice. Hee. Divine abilities were good stuff. If they hand over the Azure territory's divine ability, it's not impossible for us to let them go. Don't worry, I know what to do. When it comes to divine abilities, no one would complain about having too many of them. Night Sorrow replied with a smile. But at this time Lan Su sighed and said, "Stop fighting. Stop fighting. If you continue to fight, I'll die. Our Azure territory offended our friends from the divine world. This is our fault. We're willing to compensate." "Oh, what are you willing to compensate?" Night Sorrow put away the golden heavenly halberd and asked coldly. In the small grotto heaven, the other party would not be able to escape. He did not have to worry about that at all. We're willing to pay 1,000,000 divine crystals and a half-earthly sovereign divine artifact. If you want a woman, we can give you Blue Heart. Blue Heart is the first beauty in Azure territory. Lan Su continued to speak as he pondered. He knew that if Night Sorrow stopped, it meant that they had a chance to live. Overlord. Hearing Lan Su's words, Blue Heart's expression changed immediately. She did not expect the Overlord to use her as a bargaining chip immediately. At this time, before Night Sorrow could say anything, Wan Jianzong said with disdain, "Our divine world territory does not need trash as compensation." It was obvious that he did not care about Blue Heart and the half-earthly sovereign divine artifact. After all, compared to divine abilities, they were indeed trash. Lan Xian's expression had already changed, but when she heard the 10,000 sword sex words, she was so angry that her face darkened. She had never been treated like this in her life. What about you? We don't want you. Your bargaining chip is not sincere at all. Prepare to die. You brought all of this upon yourselves. Wan Jianzong said with disdain. When they saw an old friend, they had a good impression of her. They did not expect Blue Heart, who had become a sovereign, to be so arrogant. This kind of feeling made him very uncomfortable. Don't fight. Everything can be discussed. Tell us what you want. As long as we can do it, we'll consider it. Seeing that the people from the Divine World territory were about to attack again, Lan Su scolded Blue Heart and told her to shut up. Hearing this, Wan Jianzong looked at Night Sorrow, and Night Sorrow nodded at him. Wan Jianzong immediately understood and said, "Give us the divine ability of the Azure territory. We can exchange it for your lives. Otherwise, your souls will be destroyed." What? You want the divine ability of the Azure territory? Overlord, you can't give it to us. We'd rather die than be the sinners of the territory. After Wan Jianzong finished speaking, one of the supremes of the Azure territory shouted. The Overlord of the Azure territory, Lan Su, was silent. He was in a fierce battle in his heart. Overlord, you can't agree to this. We can't let the divine ability leak out. It's the capital of the Azure territory in the eternal sovereign world. Seeing that Lan Su was silent and struggling in his heart, even Blue Heart, who was unhappy with him, tried to persuade him. The people from the Divine World territory did not speak, giving him enough time to think. After about 30 breaths, Night Sorrow said coldly, "I won't say anything else. Make your choice." Lan Su, who was silent, was about to speak when he heard Night Sorrow's words, but he stopped. He looked around and saw Blue Heart and the others. Then he looked at Night Sorrow and said, "I can teach you the divine ability, but I have a request. That is, you can only let me go. Kill everyone else. Clan them." Chapter 3058. What? Overlord, what do you mean by that? Hearing Lan Su's words, everyone in the Azure territory was furious. What I mean is that if I go out alone, no one will know about this, so that more people won't talk. Lan Su said coldly and ran to Night Sorrow's side and said, "Night Sorrow, I'll cooperate with you and kill them all. Then I'll teach you the divine ability." None of them, including Blue Heart, had learned a complete set of divine abilities. Only I have the complete divine ability. Alright. Attack. Facing Lan Xian and the others, Night Sorrow, Xiao Tianxian, Myriad Sword Sect and the others did not hesitate and directly attacked them. With Lan Su's cooperation, everyone in the Azure territory was quickly killed. Before her soul was destroyed, Lan Xian viciously cursed Lan Su. However, Lan Su did not care at all. To him, staying alive was more important than anything else. Actually, there were definitely cultivators who had integrity and were not afraid of death, but they were definitely in the minority. Most cultivators would make the same choice as Lan Su when faced with such a situation. Alright. The matter is more or less settled. We can begin. First, make a heavenly oath. After Little Seven sucked everyone in the Azure territory into the 7th level of the Eternal Divine Tower, Night Sorrow looked at Lan Su and said. Hearing this, Lan Su nodded with a serious expression and made a heavenly oath. Then he taught the divine ability of the Azure Territory to Night Sorrow. The divine ability of the Azure Territory was called the Azure Sea. The name was very ordinary, but the aura it gave off was very vast. It could release waves that were tens of thousands of feet high. Night Sorrow had just learned it, and understood that this divine ability's main advantage was its vast concept. As for the sea, it was just a surface. Very good. It's a very powerful divine ability. The power of the Azure Sea Tide could only be sensed and not expressed. Yishan quietly experienced it for a moment, and immediately understood the key point. Since Night Sorrow is satisfied with the divine ability, can you let me go? Lan Su saw that Night Sorrow was satisfied and immediately asked. Jingyan let him go. This Azure Sea is enough to exchange for his life. Night Sorrow looked at Jingyan and said. All right. Jingyan, who was already familiar with the path, nodded and looked at Lan Su. You can leave now. Good. Lan Su nodded and left the cave immediately. Why do I feel like there's something in his eyes? After Lan Su left, Xiao Tianxian immediately said with a frown. If it was anyone else who was forced to hand over their divine ability, they would be filled with hatred. It doesn't matter. The gap between us will only grow bigger and bigger. He won't be able to cause any trouble. Night Sorrow continued. Come on. I will teach you the Azure Ocean. The move is only on the surface. You have to think about the power contained within it. That kind of power where the whole world is under one's control is very mysterious. Good. I'll give it a try. Master Wan Jian said eagerly. Sure. I'll impart it to you first. Night Sorrow smiled and began to impart the Azure Ocean to Master Wan Jian. At this time Lan Su, who had left the cave, said with a sinister face, This hatred, I must take revenge. After leaving the cave controlled by Jing Yun, he did not leave the cave. Instead, he waited for experts. He wanted to pay a price in exchange for experts from other territories to attack Night Sorrow and the others. Night Sorrow, who was not aware of Lan Su's plot, was still imparting the Azure Ocean to others. It didn't take long for everyone in the God world to learn the third divine ability. Night Sorrow, on the other hand, had 4, which was slightly stronger than the others. In terms of movement technique, he was much stronger than the others. However, if he imparted it casually, it might expose his supreme longevity. Therefore, he held back and did not teach it to others. After Night Sorrow finished imparting the divine ability, everyone in the divine realm, just like after they learned the Clear Cloud 1000 transformations technique, cultivated and fused various divine abilities. After comprehending the force contained in the Azure Sea, their original attacks did not change, although the attack pattern did not change. However, there was an additional power that could swallow heaven and earth, especially Night Sorrow's Qingxian Godly Spear technique. It was like a surging sea, wave after wave. The improvement was huge. This Azure Ocean is really a good divine ability. My spear technique has become much stronger. After completely recovering from his cultivation, Night Sorrow saw Jingyun looking at him, and said with a smile. That's indeed the case. As expected, every territory's divine ability is not simple. I'm thinking, if one day we can fuse the myriad Tao, how magnificent would that be? After fusing 3 divine abilities, Jingyun felt that her ultimate technique was as powerful as the mountains and seas. She immediately thought of fusing the myriad Tao. I feel that if we can truly fuse the myriad Tao, we won't have to be afraid of those terrifying creatures in the fog. Speaking of the myriad Tao, Night Sorrow immediately thought of those terrifying creatures that Supreme Longevity mentioned. In his heart, a great pressure suddenly rose. Jingyun, who saw through Night Sorrow's thoughts, smiled and stroked his arm, saying, Don't worry. The legendary Great Calamity hadn't even come yet. We have time. Yes, there's still time. But there shouldn't be much time left. We still have to improve our strength as soon as possible. I reckon that when the time comes, ordinary supreme beings will only be cannon fodder. While Night Sorrow sighed, the battle intent in his heart also completely bloomed. Then everyone in the God Realm territory recovered from their cultivation one by one. Everyone's harvest was not bad. Wan Jianzong laughed and said, In the future, I've decided not to leave Brother Ye's side. Wherever Brother Yi goes, I'll go. This way, sooner or later, I'll become the second expert in the eternal supreme world. Second expert? I also want to compete. Xiao Tianxian also made a rare joke. After the two of them finished speaking, Jing Yun, Murong Jinlu, and the others also said in unison, I also want to compete. Ha! You guys. Seeing everyone's performance, Night Sorrow's face revealed a trace of a smile. These friends in front of him had become his most precious wealth in the eternal supreme world. Then everyone in the small grotto heaven chatted and laughed as they drank. Recently, they were either fighting or cultivating, and the pressure was relatively high. They felt that it was time for everyone to take a break. Boom. However, just as the wine was drunk, there was an incomparably loud sound in the sky above the grotto heaven. That's the sound. The opportunity from the heavens should have begun. Let's go out. Hearing this sound, Jing Yun suddenly raised her eyebrows and said, Okay, let's go out. Everyone remember, no matter what, the most important thing is to protect yourself. When everyone flew up, Night Sorrow reminded them. When he flew to the sky above the small grotto heaven, he saw almost 10,000 cultivators. Without a doubt, these were all competitors. Moreover, the number of cultivators was still increasing. Genius remembered the address of this site in a second. Clan mobile version reading website. Chapter 3059. Many cave masters of the small grotto heavens, like the people of the god world, came out of their grotto heavens after hearing the commotion. In an instant, the sky above the 3,000 small grotto heavens became very lively. This is really a big scene. It's even fiercer than the battle for Providence. Looking at the sea of people in front of him, Master Wan Jian could not help but sigh. At the same time, a strong battle intent rose from his body. Hearing this, Yuan Fengxue snorted and said, Of course it's much fiercer. Those who participate in the battle for Providence are all rulers. Now they are basically all supremes. How can it be the same? Today's battle is far more dangerous than before. You should use your brain when fighting. Don't rush forward brainlessly, understand? I know. There are so many experts in front of us. I won't casually reveal any flaws. Master Wan Jian smiled at Yuan Fengxue. At this time, Night Sorrow was also explaining some things to Jing Yun and Wu Lingfei. The scene in front of them was too big. After the battle, there would definitely be chaos. He had to explain some details clearly. After talking to the two girls, Night Sorrow gathered everyone in the god world and said, Resources are important, but safety is more important. If you encounter danger, give up the resources in front of you. The world is bustling for profit, and the world is bustling for profit. Most people are here to fight for opportunities. Sometimes, as long as you give up the fight, you shouldn't be targeted. Don't worry. Although everyone's cultivation is relatively low, their battle strength is not inferior to ordinary supremes. It's a bit arrogant to say that we will kill everyone. But if you want to give up the resources to protect yourself, there shouldn't be a problem. Xiao Tianxian understood Night Sorrow's worry and quickly comforted him. When the battle starts later, if anyone encounters danger, directly enter the Eternal Divine Tower. The Eternal Divine Tower is an earthly supreme artifact. In the sky above the grotto heavens, no one can break through it. After that, Night Sorrow said this and observed the state of the other cultivators. There were definitely more than 10,000 people here, and most of them were unfamiliar faces. Therefore, no one paid attention to them who came from the god world. Moreover, among them, only Jing Yun had the cultivation of supremes. Naturally, she was ignored by the surrounding cultivators. Some of the supreme beings present felt that these people in front of them were simply courting death. Many people had mocking looks on their faces, waiting to see them make a fool of themselves. Don't laugh at us. I don't even like you guys. Everyone else looked at him with disdain, and the myriad sword sect grumbled. Night Sorrow smiled and comforted him. It's okay. It would be great if they could truly fight. Our goal is to obtain resources and increase our strength. I'm not angry. Don't worry. I don't like them at all. In a few more years, all of them will be trash. Master Wan Jian said proudly, then continued. Oh right. Where are the 3 grotto heavens? Wan Jianzong looked around, but he didn't see any sign of the grotto heaven. Hearing this, Jing Yun replied. The grotto heaven requires a teleportation array to enter. Anyone could use the teleportation matrix, but the armored zombie had no memory of what it would be like after entering it. However, he was extremely afraid of that teleportation array. I've never dared to take even half a step here. Let's discuss this matter at length. Get ready for battle. Looking at the scene before us, the opportunity should be coming soon. Although there are many cultivators in front of us, the 3,000 grotto heavens occupy a large enough space. The battle shouldn't be too intense at the beginning. At this time, Knight Sorrow continued to instruct. The only thing he was worried about was that the people of the heavenly realm would be in danger amidst the chaos. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as Knight Sorrow's voice fell, there was a loud thunderclap in the void. After the thunderclap, a huge black hole suddenly appeared in the void. Looking up at the void, one could see that the black hole in the sky was bigger than the 3,000 grotto heavens combined. It covered a vast area. It's here. It's finally here. I don't know what kind of situation this opportunity will come in. Looking up at Knight Sorrow in the void, he thought to himself. The black hole didn't make Knight Sorrow wait for too long. Soon the opportunity came. Among the things that came, there were Sovereign Law and Earth Sovereign Law and Earth Sovereign Law and Earth Sovereign Divine Artifacts, and various elixirs. The quality of these things were obviously better than some of the things in the Eternal Sovereign World. As time passed, these things slowly came down. However, some things stopped after a certain distance and didn't come down anymore. Everyone looked around and found that the higher the distance, the better the quality. How could they remain calm? As a few people flew up into the void, the others immediately flew up to fight for the opportunity. However, they found that flying up would be met with a strong force of imprisonment. The higher they flew, the more difficult it was. At this time, Xiong Hammer reminded Knight Sorrow. The higher we go, the greater the pressure. I can see the restriction, but I don't have the ability to break it. The person who set up the restriction must be an Earth Sovereign, or at least a Heavenly Sovereign. The Taoist rhyme of the restriction has a natural feeling. This is not something an Earth Sovereign can do. I guess this must be a senior from the Eternal Sovereign World, who is contributing to the Eternal Sovereign World. But if you want to get good things, you have to prove your strength. Knight Sorrow told the people of the God World and summoned Little Seven. He asked him to take care of everyone, and continued to go up. His goal was the best resources. Naturally, he didn't want to fight with others underground. At this time, there were about 100 people who could reach the same height as Knight Sorrow. These 100 sovereigns all had the strength of a half-step Earth Sovereign. A white-bearded sovereign, who was far away from Knight Sorrow, saw Knight Sorrow fly to such a height with the strength of a half-step Earth Sovereign. He couldn't help but shout, "Little brother, your cultivation is ordinary, but your strength is heaven-defying. In time, when you become a sovereign, I'm afraid you will become an invincible existence. Which territory are you from?" Yi Shang turned around and saw that the white-bearded prime was wearing a Taoist robe that was glittering with jewels. At this time, he was still at ease. Obviously, he still had the ability to go up. However, the old man was completely relaxed and unhurried. After glancing at him, Yi Shang was immediately shocked. Although the elder was a half-step to Earthly Sovereign, his true strength was about the same as Yu Earthly Sovereign from the Moon Shadow Estate. The strength of the two's auras was almost the same. With such strength, even Knight Sorrow was no match for him. Knight Sorrow cupped his fists politely and said, "Senior, you flatter me. I'm Knight Sorrow from the God World. Clan M." Chapter 3060. In fact, when Knight Sorrow spoke, he was already prepared to fight. After all, the realm of the gods was the enemy of the entire eternal supreme world. An expert with such strength must have come from a stronger territory. Haha, little brother, don't be nervous. Seeing Knight Sorrow's vigilance and fighting spirit, the old man with white eyebrows and a white beard smiled. He said, "I've heard of you. You are the champion of this battle of providence. With the strength you have shown so far, you really live up to your reputation. Among the sovereigns, you should be the first. I, Baimei Sanrin, am very happy to meet such a talented junior like you. Baimei Sanrin? Are you Senior Baimei Sanrin? When he heard this name, the wariness between Yi Shang's brows immediately dissipated by quite a bit. He had heard of Baimei Sanrin before. He was one of the 10 great itinerant men of the Eternal Supreme World. The 10 great itinerant men had followed Yan Hengshi, or Yan Yan, in their previous lives. However, they had all died in battle during the Great Tribulation. Now they were all reincarnated. They were not interested in the Eternal Supreme World. Therefore, after reincarnating, they all announced that they had become itinerant men. Because of some of the powerful memories of their previous lives, their strength had increased very quickly. Although they were very strong, they had never attacked anyone in the Eternal Supreme World. Even when fighting for resources, they had only done so. The 10 of them were usually elusive, as if they were existences that only existed in legends. Night Sorrow did not expect to meet one today. Haha, it's me. Baimei Sanrin saw that Night Sorrow had heard of his name and smiled. At this time, Night Sorrow, who was collecting some earthly supreme rules and essences, asked curiously, Senior, with your strength, why don't you go to the grotto to fight for better things? Haha. If I were to enter the grotto heaven alone, I would have no chance at all. If I am sent in, even if I don't die, I will be crippled. After Baimei Sanrin finished speaking, he smiled and asked, Little brother Knight, are you also interested in the grotto? Of course. The Great Tribulation is coming. Who doesn't want to become stronger as soon as possible? Night Sorrow sighed. In front of Baimei Sanrin, he did not hide anything about the Great Tribulation. Hearing this, Baimei Sanrin was startled and said, It's coming again? When he said this, his body trembled slightly. The battle back then was simply too tragic. Almost all the cultivators of the Eternal Supreme World had died in battle. If it weren't for the creatures in the foggy area being used to absorbing the energy in the foggy area and occupying the Eternal Supreme World, the myriad realms wouldn't have been able to grow at this time. Although it's cruel, it's coming again. These words were spoken by Senior Yan Heng's shadow. After Night Sorrow collected the earthly supreme law and essence in front of him, he continued to move up. Baimei Sanrin, who had just collected a divine artifact, heard the name Yan Hengshi and his shoulders trembled. He asked, Did you encounter Senior Yan Hengshi's shadow in the Battle of Providence? Did you hear about Yan's whereabouts from him? Back then, Baimei Sanrin followed Yan, but he was also in awe of Yan Hengshi. Senior Whitebrow, are you an old acquaintance of Senior Yan? Night Sorrow could clearly feel the excitement from Baimei Sanrin's body, so he immediately asked. And yes, I am a general under Yan Hengshi. In the last Great Tribulation, we fought side by side. Baimei Sanrin's eyes dimmed as he said, I witnessed the scene of her being killed with my own eyes. I don't know if she has reincarnated. Senior Yan Hengshi once mentioned Senior Yan. He said that she was only seriously injured back then and did not die in battle. She should be recovering somewhere at this time. Night Sorrow could feel that Baimei Sanrin was not lying, so he directly told him about Yan. What? Not dead? That's great. That's great. What Yan Hengshi said can't be false. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Baimei Sanrin immediately laughed out loud. It's just that Senior Yan Hengshi also said that none of the 3 in the fog area should be dead. Therefore, this Great Tribulation should be more difficult for our Eternal Supreme World to survive than the last one. At this time Night Sorrow said with a frown. Thinking of what Yan Hengshi said, he once again felt that his strength was too weak. None of the 3 bastards from back then died. That's not fair. What about Yan Hengshi? So what? Is he okay? Baimei Sanrin continued to ask. Senior Yan Hengshi has completely fallen in the battle back then. In the face of another Great Tribulation, we can only rely on Senior Yan and ourselves. Night Sorrow said helplessly. In the fog area, there were 3 supreme existences. However, there was only 1 territory in the divine realm. Moreover, the number of heavenly sovereigns and earth sovereigns was absolutely in the fog area. This battle was not going to be easy. Time. What our eternal supreme world lacks now is time. Bai Mei Sanren smiled bitterly and said, in fact, the number of geniuses that have emerged in the eternal supreme world today is obviously more than back then. On the whole, the cultivation talent of cultivators was incomparable to that of the past. However, we lack time. I don't know when those 3 demons will start the war again. On the surface, it looks like our eternal Paragon realm is still going to lose this time. But how can we endure the fate of being slaughtered again and again? Therefore, at present, increasing our strength is very important. This is also the reason why I want to enter the Grotto Heaven, Yishang said. He did not hide his determination to increase his strength. Little brother knight, the fact that Yen Hengshi has said so much to you proves that he values you very much. Bai Mei Sanren's eyes flashed and said, why don't I be your guardian? Guardian? What's that? After collecting the Earth Sovereign's rules and essence, Knight Sorrow began to move up, looking for elixirs that could increase his strength. At present, his main goal was to advance to the Supreme Realm. After Knight Sorrow asked, Bai Mei Sanren said, in layman's terms, I'm a fighter. Whoever dares to deal with you, I will deal with them. I will protect you as you grow, and I will teach you some of the things I have mastered. Senior Whitebrow, this is not good. You have your own path. I can't delay you. When Yishang heard this, he immediately refused. It would be great to have Whitebrow and the other 2 as helpers, but he did not want a legendary figure to become a vassal. Then cooperate. I'm willing to cooperate with you. What you mean is that if you want to advance to the Supreme Realm, then enter the Grotto Heaven to seize the opportunity. When the time comes, let's do it together. At this time, Bai Mei Sanren continued. Genius remembered this site's address in a second. Human mobile version reading website. Chapter 3061. Let's enter the Grotto Heaven and explore it together. Knight Sorrow said. He didn't want to owe the other party too much, as that would make his Taoist heart unstable. Haha. Since that's the case, I'll quickly snatch the resources for you to advance. After receiving Knight Sorrow's affirmative answer, Bai Mei Sanren immediately flew to a higher area. The height he flew at was obviously higher than anyone else present, and it immediately attracted a lot of attention. Most of the practitioners present had heard of Bai Mei Sanren's name, but none of them recognized him. For a moment, everyone was trying to guess his identity. Just as the crowd was discussing, Bai Mei Sanren started to throw good things at Knight Sorrow's location. Earthly sovereign resources, spiritual pills, divine veins. All of them were thrown at Knight Sorrow's location. Knight Sorrow naturally couldn't refuse such good intentions, so he thought to himself, if there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely make up for all of this. Then he started to collect all kinds of good things. Bastard. If this goes on, all the good things will be taken by this kid. Absolutely not. Seeing that Knight Sorrow was continuously receiving resources thrown at him by Bai Mei Sanren, the 20 half-step earthly sovereigns who were flying at the same height as Knight Sorrow were all enraged. The height they could fly at was about the same as Knight Sorrow's. They couldn't reach Bai Mei Sanren's height at all. After Yu Xinghui spoke, 3 half-step earthly sovereigns from the Huiyue territory immediately flew toward Knight Sorrow, ready to snatch the resources thrown at him by Bai Mei Sanren. Little brother Knight Sorrow, if you let me be your protector, I'll naturally swat these flies away. Seeing the 3 half-step earthly sovereigns attack Knight Sorrow to snatch the resources, Yu Xinghui smiled. High up in the sky, Bai Mei Sanren smiled and said. It was obvious that he had expected this situation to happen. However, when he heard this, Yishang unexpectedly replied, Don't worry, big brother. Just the 3 of them are not enough to threaten me. Junior, aren't you a little too arrogant? Which territory are you from? Tell me your name. Yu Xinghui, a half-step earthly sovereign from the Huiyue territory, had a murderous look on his face. He was not pleased to see a half-martial highness taking all the good stuff here. However, before he attacked, he had to ask about the other party's background. If they were from the 4 great holy lands, he would not dare to offend them in the slightest. Knight Sorrow of the Heavenly Realm. Knight Sorrow naturally knew why the other party was asking for his name, but he didn't hold anything back. Juhi Bai Mao, let's go and kill him together. If the one above makes a move, we'll fight together. That little bastard from the god world can't be allowed to live. Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yu Xinghui, a half-step earthly sovereign from the Radiant Moon territory, immediately transmitted a message to the other two half-step earthly sovereigns. These two were from the Underworld Star territory and the 100 Ninja territory respectively. The Underworld Star territory and the 100 Ninja territory were among the top 10 eternal sovereigns. Back then, they had all attacked the Supreme Longevity. Upon hearing that Night Sorrow was from the God world, their hearts were filled with murderous intent. They all knew that Night Sorrow had taken the first place in this battle of providence, so there was no room for him. Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots? You guys are so mighty. I hope that when the great calamity comes, you guys will still be so unyielding. Night Sorrow looked at the other party with a cold look on his face. What great calamity? Today is your calamity. Yu Xinghui snorted coldly and roared, "Attack!" At the same time, a light sword made of starlight appeared in his hand. The light sword was not very big, about 2 meters long. However, after it was taken out, it immediately lit up the entire sky. The aura it contained was extremely powerful. What a powerful divine weapon! If Brother Wan can get it, his strength will definitely increase by a lot. Yu Xinghui took out the light sword and slashed at Night Sorrow. His light sword was called the Starlight Sword. It was the same name as the long swords of the other people in the Starlight territory. However, it was the highest grade sword in the territory. It was close to an earthly sovereign divine weapon. When it slashed an ordinary long sword, it felt like it could cut through iron like mud. Facing it, Night Sorrow had a strange thought in his mind. Then he directly activated the 33 Heavens Battle Secret technique and used the Qingxian Godly Spear technique to fight with his opponent. The Qingxian Godly Spear technique was different from some of the other spear techniques that Night Sorrow had. It was not just a simple attack. When it was used, it was like an endless rain falling on Yu Xinghui. Young man, you have some skills. No wonder you can make it to the end of the Battle of Providence. For a moment Yu Xinghui, who was suppressed, was not anxious. This was because at this time, the other two half-earthly sovereigns, Juhi and 100 Eyes, attacked Night Sorrow at the same time. The other sovereigns, who were about the same height, were collecting resources while keeping an eye on the situation. They did not have any intention of attacking, but they were also keeping an eye out, hoping that no one would suddenly attack them. Don't call me a young man. Can't you see clearly who is stronger and who is weaker? Night Sorrow scolded Yu Xinghui disdainfully, then continued to attack him. The Qingxian Godly Spear technique combined 4 superpowers. Especially after combining with the Azure Sea Tide, the attack was very powerful. It looked like a dense raindrop, but the momentum was really big, like the Overlord Spear. Yu Xinghui was quickly suppressed. After Juhi and 100 Eyes attacked, Night Sorrow scolded coldly, "Since you attacked me today, you should kill me directly. Otherwise, I will take your heads even if I have to go to the ends of the earth." Young man, you are too arrogant. The Eternal Supreme Realm is not a place for a young man like you to be fierce. Juhi, who had been scolded, showed a trace of disdain. Then he took out a long and narrow saber and slashed at Night Sorrow. This saber was not as good as the Starlight Sword, but it was also very sharp. Facing him, Night Sorrow did not dare to be careless. While attacking Yu Xinghui, he kept dodging. After learning the Xiantian secret shadow of the Jiuxian territory, his speed was not inferior to any prime. The two of them attacked Night Sorrow at the same time, but they did not quickly suppress him. Yu Xinghui shouted, "100 Eyes, what are you waiting for?" "I am looking for an opportunity." The woman called 100 Eyes, while responding to Yu Xinghui, was not in a hurry to attack. When Night Sorrow and the two of them were extremely anxious, hundreds of eyes suddenly opened on her body. After these disgusting eyes were opened, Lin Fan opened his eyes. Suddenly hundreds of black lights shot at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow, who was not at a disadvantage, did not have the slightest fear of Yu Xinghui and Juhi's attack. However, this attack from 100 Eyes immediately caused a sense of danger to rise from the bottom of his heart. Chapter 3062. At the same time 100 Eyes said sinisterly, 100 Eyes open, 10,000 gods slay. After chanting this incantation, the hundreds of black lights immediately attacked Night Sorrow, as if they were controlled by a soul. Every single one of the 100 streaks of black light transformed into an extremely evil demon. After these things took shape, they immediately pounced on Night Sorrow and tore at his soul. It was as if they wanted to pull his soul out of his body. Even though Night Sorrow had the power to fight the heavens and the earth, he was still unable to withstand it. Facing such an evil attack, he felt a little uncomfortable. Haha. Little brother Night, how is it? Do you need me to help? After seeing 100 Eyes attack, Baimei Sanrin immediately sent a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. He could see that Night Sorrow was struggling at this moment. No need. Night Sorrow, who was being suppressed, replied coldly, anger rising in his heart. This was the first time he felt like his soul was being pulled at, and he was completely disgusted. Are you angry? Be angry. I will let you suffer the baptism of death in your anger. What awaits you will be the destruction of your soul. At this moment, 100 Eyes, hundreds of eyes were staring at Night Sorrow, making one's scalp tingle. Eye technique. Being stared at by 100 Eyes, Night Sorrow felt uncomfortable in his heart. Soon he realized that the crux of the problem lay in the eye technique and not the qi, Mei Wang Liang and Ba. At this moment, Yu Xinghui and Zhu He's attacks came one after another. Under the attacks of the three, Night Sorrow immediately felt the threat of death. In this crisis, he instantly calmed down. In his mind 100 Eyes eye technique flashed. At the same time, he remembered some eye techniques that he had come into contact with. If he couldn't break the other party's eye technique, and Night Sorrow had already said everything, there was no need for Baimei Sanrin to help. In the blink of an eye, Night Sorrow comprehended an eye technique that combined the god's finger. He roared, Supreme God Eye. In an instant, an extremely powerful beam of light shot out of his sea serpent eye. This beam of light was similar to the attack of the divine finger. However, it was used to counter eye techniques and divine soul attacks. After a beam of light shot out, it went straight for the 100 Eyed's body. The beam of light immediately burned all of the 100 Eyed's eyes. The 100 Eyes of the 100 Eyes were hit by this attack, and immediately shed 100 tears of blood. The demons and monsters she had used to restrain Yi Shan had all disappeared as well. In the blink of an eye. At this time, Yu Xinghui and Zhu He's attacks finally arrived. In the face of their attacks, Night Sorrow immediately used Mysterious Sky Secret Shadow to dodge. At this moment of life and death, he no longer had the ability to hide the Mysterious Sky Shadow. After using it, he directly dodged the attacks of the two people. Wasn't this movement technique the profound Sky Secret Shadow of the 9 profound territories? A genuine Xiantian Secret Shadow. How is this possible? Seeing Night Sorrow use the genuine Xiantian Secret Shadow, Yu Xinghui and Zhu He were both stunned. On the other hand, the 100 Eyed at the side closed all of her eyes tightly. After being attacked by the Supreme God Eye, almost all of her eyes were destroyed. This was not only because Night Sorrow's attack was powerful, but also because she had failed to use her eye technique and suffered a terrifying backlash. Her eye technique was powerful, but it was also accompanied by great danger. As long as it was interrupted, she would suffer a serious backlash. I'll kill you first. Disgusting thing. After recalling the hundreds of eyes of the 100 Eyed, Night Sorrow felt disgusted. With a loud roar, he used the mysterious Azure Divine Spear technique to attack. Although all of her eyes were sealed, the 100 Eyed still had a trace of strength to fight back. With the help of Yu Xinghui and Zhu He, she temporarily resisted Night Sorrow's attack. However, as the battle continued, Night Sorrow gradually gained control of the situation. This was because he realized that although Yu Xinghui and Zhu He were very strong, they did not have any special skills. They did not seem to have any secret treasures on them. Experts with such strength do not have any secret treasures on them. This is strange. After Night Sorrow confirmed that the three of them did not have any secret treasures on them, he began to fight more fiercely. Soon, the three of them were completely suppressed. Seeing that Night Sorrow was beginning to gain the upper hand, Baimei and the other two suddenly said, "The three of them are just doppelgangers. but their real bodies are not far away. If I'm not wrong, they followed someone into the grotto heaven. What? They are all doppelgangers. Hearing Bai Mei Sanren's words, Night Sorrow was surprised. However, the hundred-eyed and the rest's performance soon confirmed Bai Mei and the other two's words. Seeing that they could not resist Night Sorrow's attack, the hundred-eyed shouted maliciously, "Junior, just you wait. This is not over. Even if I have to chase you to the ends of the earth, I will dig out your eyeballs. I think it won't be long before we meet again." Bai Mei Sanren guessed that the three's real bodies were in the grotto heaven. Night Sorrow felt that his guess was reliable. The three of them could not have only sent their doppelgangers to fight for the opportunity. When the doppelgangers were in danger, the real bodies did not come to help. It was very likely that they were fighting in the grotto heaven and had no time to care. Otherwise, the three's real bodies would have come to kill them. Since their real bodies were most likely in the grotto heaven, Night Sorrow was prepared to fight again after he advanced. "Junior, don't be so arrogant. Just you wait." Yu Xinghui replied unhappily. Then he looked at the other two and said, "Don't talk nonsense with him. Let's go." "Okay." Ju He agreed and disappeared in the void. Soon after, the other two people also disappeared. They must have gone to meet up with their real bodies. Looking in the direction that the three had disappeared, Bai Mei Sanren made a guess. Then he said, "Brother Knight, you are in the sovereign realm, but you have not been defeated by three top earthly sovereigns. This is a talent that can be seen with the naked eye. Let me be your protector." Senior Bai Mei, Night Sorrow has grown up in battles. If I am taken care of by someone and have someone to rely on, I may lose my fighting direction. So forget it. Night Sorrow replied and continued to fight for the opportunity in the void. The scene of him defeating the three half-step to earthly sovereigns had been seen by the people around him. Moreover, there were many resources in the void, so there was no one looking for trouble with him. Under such circumstances, Night Sorrow collected some more resources. Then he looked at Bai Mei Sanren and said, "Senior Bai Mei, can Night Sorrow ask you for a favor?" "Hehe, what favor? What is it?" White-browed unaffiliated cultivator smiled. "I am going to find a place to break through to the sovereign realm. If you have the ability, please help Night Sorrow take care of my friends in the realm of the gods." Night Sorrow bowed to Bai Mei Sanren and said, "Clan M." Chapter 3063. Take care of them? No problem, but in my opinion they don't need anyone to take care of them. Bai Mei Sanren smiled as he looked down. At this moment, the people of the heavenly realm were fighting with the supremes of other territories. They were fighting for resources. They were fighting with supremes of the same height, and were not at a disadvantage. At this point, no one had been absorbed into the eternal divine tower. Moreover, they had gained a lot. Night Sorrow followed Bai Mei Sanren's gaze and looked over. Wan Jianzong immediately said, "Brother Yi, come over. We have gathered a lot of resources. Together with what you have, you should be able to break through to the Supremes." "No need, Brother Wan. With Senior Whitebrow's help, I have obtained enough resources. I am going to break through to the Supremes now. Take care of yourselves. Keep all the resources you have obtained." Night Sorrow looked at the people of the heavenly realm, then pointed at Bai Mei Sanren and said, "This is Senior Whitebrow. If you encounter any danger, you can ask him for help." Senior Whitebrow. When the people of the heavenly realm heard Night Sorrow's introduction, they immediately greeted Bai Mei Sanren. "Ha! Good. If you have any problems, send me a message." Whitebrow Wanderer greeted everyone, and then flew up into the sky where there was no one else. No one could approach the height he could reach. Therefore, the best things were basically all taken by him. Seeing Bai Mei Sanren fly to the highest altitude, Wan Jianzong could not help but sigh. "If only I had such strength." "If you had such strength, you would have entered the grotto heaven to fight for the good things." Yuan Fengxue joked after Wan Jianzong finished speaking. Then they continued to fight for the resources in front of them. As for Night Sorrow, with Jing Yun's help, he returned to the grotto heaven and absorbed the various resources in peace. He had already reached the pinnacle of the sovereign realm. Now that he continued to absorb the earthly supreme's laws and essences, his body and soul quickly reached the pinnacle of the sovereign realm. At this peak, Knight Sorrow encountered a small bottleneck. That was a mental shackle. In about 4 hours, he had successfully overcome it. These resources are truly divine. This was especially true for the supreme blood essence of a peak-grade supreme being. Its quality was simply heaven-defying. If I hadn't absorbed them, I would have needed tens of thousands of years of bitter cultivation to reach the supremacy level so quickly. And that was in the eternal sovereign world. If we were in the God realm, who knows how much time it would take? Knight Sorrow, who slowly stood up from the grotto heaven, suddenly felt a little emotional. However, he didn't stop at all. He directly flew up into the void to welcome the lightning tribulation that was brewing. Logically speaking, the lightning tribulation energy body of the sovereign realm should be extremely powerful. However, Knight Sorrow's heart was as calm as still water, without the slightest ripple. This was the confidence he had developed after transcending tribulation so many times. Not long after, the sovereign thunder tribulation body appeared. It was similar to Knight Sorrow's tribulations in the past, but the energy contained in its body was obviously much stronger. After it appeared, it grabbed the lightning in its hand and struck towards Knight Sorrow. Good timing. I can use your lightning to train my body. Knight Sorrow, who was flying horizontally, held the golden heavenly halberd in his hand, but he didn't brandish it. Instead, he used his body to welcome the lightning attack of the lightning tribulation energy body. Being struck by lightning of such intensity, even if Knight Sorrow's body was very strong, it was still very uncomfortable. However, he gritted his teeth and persevered. Still nothing. He attacked the lightning tribulation energy body and continued to rely on it to train his body. However, to Knight Sorrow's surprise, this time, the lightning tribulation energy body seemed to have some intelligence. In a situation where its continuous attacks didn't have any effect, it suddenly chose to self-destruct. It wanted to use self-destruction to kill Knight Sorrow. Jingyun, quickly let me out of the small world. Knight Sorrow, who realized that the lightning tribulation energy body was going to use self-destruction to kill him, immediately sent a voice transmission to Jingyun. Husband, you can come out now. Jingyun, who received the voice transmission, immediately recited the incantation. After she spoke, Knight Sorrow immediately flew out of the small world. The moment he flew out, the lightning tribulation energy body completely exploded inside. It caused the entire world to tremble a few times. What happened there? The commotion was too big, and it immediately attracted the attention of many people. Many people locked their eyes on it. At this moment, Knight Sorrow was gradually trying to restrain his aura. This was because he realized that after he had truly advanced to the Supreme Being level, he couldn't control his aura at all. His entire person looked radiant and colorful, which didn't match his character. Haha. Little brother Knight, congratulations on successfully advancing to the Supreme Being level. You have taken the most important step. Everyone who advances to the Supreme Being level will uncontrollably overflow their aura. You don't have to deliberately control it. At this moment, Baimei Sanren, who was originally continuing to fight for resources in the void, said with a smile, Senior Baimei, why did you say that I have taken the most important step? Hearing the other party's words, Knight Sorrow asked in puzzlement. Supreme Being, Earth Supreme Being, Heaven Supreme Being level. In fact, they are all Supreme Beings. And those below the Supreme Being level are ants. Now you are truly on your way, Baimei Sanren explained. Yes. Now that Senior has said it, it does seem to make sense. At the very least, I have caught up with one step. Knight Sorrow nodded and continued. I still need to help my friends in the territory with resources. When the resources are enough for them to advance to the Supreme Being level, Senior and I will travel together and enter the grotto heaven to explore. How about that? Ah, great. But don't call me Senior in the future. Just call me brother, Baimei Sanren said with a smile. This was the same as Mo Qianqian's address. Knight Sorrow felt that it was quite natural to call him that, so he said, Then I will have to trouble you to wait for me for a while. You have helped me so much this time. We will strive to fight for suitable resources in the Grotto Heaven to help you advance to the Earth Supreme Being level. Speaking of which, it is strange. The rules and essences that can advance to the Earth Supreme Being level are clearly distributed in the fog. But for some reason, the 3,000 Grotto Heavens will drop some every time. It is strange. Baime Samrin said doubtfully. He more or less knew some things about the 3 Grotto Heavens, but the extent of his understanding could only be considered superficial. Maybe this is called the will of the heavens. Maybe the heavens don't want the strength of both sides to be too unbalanced. Night Sorrow said and flew up into the sky. This time, his strength had advanced to the level of lower Supreme Being. It was much easier to fly up than when he was a half-step Supreme Being level. Soon, he flew to the height where Baime Sanrin was and collected some resources. After collecting for a while, Night Sorrow's mind suddenly moved. He found that there was an Earth Supreme Being level spear at a higher position. Clan M. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.